Hello and welcome, connoisseurs of fine common cardboard, to today's live stream. Welcome everybody to the stream today. My name is Ryan Roberts. Oh, geez. It's playing my audio back to me. Oh, I see why, because I've got the video open in another one. Well, anyways, good to see you all. Thank you all for joining. Today we're going to be talking about Modern Horizons 3, the latest and most broken set from Wizards of the Coast to grace our fine format of cPDH, and it's a pleasure to be back. It's been a bit of a pause. I've been taking a break from the streaming primarily to find work, and the good news is I have found myself a good job, and I'm very excited to be starting that soon, which will lead to good things for the channel. I'll actually be able to afford to replace this computer, this ailing computer that just yearns for the junkyard. It won't be allowed to go to the junkyard though. This is going to become a home terminal for my house. But yeah, big improvements to the channel coming soon, of course, with this new influx of a job and some income coming in. It's been a long time coming, so I do apologize for the break in content, but I really had to dedicate myself fully to the pursuit of work. That is the most important thing for me. So Dax, good to see you here. Elahim, welcome everyone. Glad to have you here. Let's get started though. This is a pretty sensational title here. Will it ever be the same? We're going to talk a little bit about like how broken is this format after this set? What changes? Has this set changed cPDH forever, or is it largely the same? These are things that we're going to look at as we go card by card. I'm really eager to hear what your all's thoughts are on this. And we're going to start today talking a little bit about the mechanics that were introduced with Modern Horizons 3. And boy, is it a list. We have just about everything under the sun coming back here, including historically some of the most elevated cards on the Storm scale. Okay, we have Storm itself, Split Second, we have Affinity coming back, Annihilator probably not maybe on the high on the Storm scale. It is good, but you know, not super high there. We have Cascade, although at common, no Cascade stuff there. And a whole bunch of other stuff too. So this set is full of juice for cPDH, and we're going to be going piece by piece. Not all of these are represented at common. Things like Unearth we do have, and a number of other ones as well. But it's too many to really cover in this. We're just going to cover some of the best cards from the set. We're going to talk about staples, and we're going to talk about cards that maybe don't go in every single deck that you have of that color, or 90% of them, but they do have good homes. So we're going to make sure to cover all of those. So first we're going to take a look at the commons. We're going to get right into it here, starting with white. And the first one we have is Thraben Charm. 2 mana, instant speed. It's going to deal damage equal to twice the number of creatures that you control. Okay? And I'm just going to swap some things around in my interface here really quick, so I can see everything really clearly, see the chat. There we go. And this is a fabulous removal spell. One of the really difficult things about playing mono white or white without a supporting color of red or black or blue is the lack of instant speed, cheap instant speed answers to combo decks. White gives you things like Standard Bearer, Coalition Honor Guard, Suture Priest, things like that are kind of permanents in play that can help deal with those things, or permanents that could be activated. But a lot of the focus in white, you know, at common, we don't get Swords to Plowshares, right? We're not getting those sorts of things. This is as close as we've gotten to it. For 2 mana at instant speed, if we have our commander and a single other creature, this is instant speed Flame Slash. This is like Grasp of Darkness, right? And this is a staple. This card is exceptionally good, okay? Just for killing creatures, it's going to be really, really powerful. The fact that it's instant, and the fact that it scales really well. This is going to kill Dargo if you have only 3 creatures in play, and white tends to do really good with that. If you just had Battle Screech, this card is going to be a 2 mana instant speed, deal 6. The comparisons we have are to cards like Last Breath. There's a number of other ones here like Hobbit Sting, Crib Swap, or even the new Generous Gift. And they've gotten better. Hobbit Sting was a big deal because, again, it's 2 mana instant, kills the thing. You know, it's going to deal 3 to 4 damage probably, could deal a lot more, could maybe not be functional. But the problem with white removal, it's too often attached to tapped creature or something that is attacking, right? And we need it to just kill things. Too Much Ado, DBZ Dragon, welcome. Glad to have you all here. And Generous Gift and Crib Swap. We've had Crib Swap for a long time. We even have Afterlife as another one, but it doesn't exile and it gives your creature a flying 1/1. Generous Gift was a big boost, but Generous Gift is most important because it destroys permanents, and it's also an ambush viper. You can blow up something of your own, make a 3/3, and kill something in combat. And wait a second. I'm getting a call. Hold on. Oh, you got the text of the card wrong? What's that? Choose one. What the hell is this? Destroy target enchantment, exile any number of players' graveyards? Did white just get the best removal spell in the format? This is ludicrous. Okay, this card is exactly the kind of common I love to see WotC printing into our format. And I couldn't be more excited about it. This card is hyper flexible. The ability to deal with flicker by killing the creature that's being flickered, to exile the flickers out of the graveyard if need be, to use Graveyard Hate when removal itself isn't good enough. For example, with an Ashnod's Altar combo, maybe involving Mirror Retriever and Workshop Assistant, Ashnod's Altar, the Sphinx Summoner deck has been picking up a lot of steam lately. The ability to exile graveyards is fabulous. Destroying the enchantment may not be as relevant because destroying a Freed from the Real usually isn't timed right. You know, you need, unless they only have like 1 mana in their pool left over, destroying the Freed from the Real isn't going to be very good. But this can tag an enchantment if they do, you know, if a Gretchen player goes for something with Ouroboros Breezecaller and they're really close on mana and you blow up an Overgrowth, something of that nature. This is fabulous. This is exactly the kind of card we want to see. You know, maybe we don't ever get Swords to Plowshares or, you know, Path to Exile or something like that, but this is a fine surrogate in its place. Of all the white cards, this is the only one that's really stable, and I do expect this to show up in 90% or more of white decks moving forward. It's instant speed, flexible, covers a wide range of different targets. When you compare it to things like Make Your Move, which is similarly flexible, it's just cheaper and does more. So love it. Love to see it. Moving on to the honorable mentions for white, we have a number of different cards. White didn't get a ton of staples. There's really just one, and that's Thraben Charm, and it's damn good. But we did get Dog Umbra, and Dog Umbra is a 2-mana flash. It's a pacifism flash with flash, or it's just Umbra Armor. And Umbra Armor, for those unfamiliar, is the new terminology. They're replacing Totem Armor, similar to how they replaced Tribal with Kindred, all in an effort to be a lot more in touch with and really just more respectful to cultures that, you know, that have nothing to do with this, right? And so not using those terminologies is kind of where they're heading with Umbra not being Totem and Tribal becoming Kindred. So Dog Umbra is great. Instant speed sort of removal if you want it to be, to turn off like a big threat, or protection. I really like how dynamic this is, and it's at a great cheap cost. This is a fabulous card for decks like Satyr Enchanter, for example. And it's basically a combination of Hyena Umbra and Pacifism. So perfectly playable card. I expect to see it in Satyr Enchanter. Instant speed, draw, you know, in Satyr Enchanter is really good. So I do like this. A Dog Umbra could also potentially go in a deck. Well, no, it wouldn't go in Rayav because you end up destroying the Totem Armor, which means it's no longer modified, which is kind of not the terminology uses exactly, but yeah. The next one we're going to talk about is Jolted Awake, and Jolted Awake is really similar to two cards that we're really familiar with, which is Recommission and Return Triumphant. It says 1 mana sorcery, choose an artifact or a creature in your graveyard and pay any amount of energy for its mana value. If you do, return it from the graveyard to the battlefield. So this is kind of a worse Unearth, but it does hit artifacts, which is key. And the things that this hits that are artifacts, we've got Tithing Blade, Cranial Plating at 2, and we also have Ichor Wellspring, Mycosynth Wellspring, Mephitic Draught. There's a number of different good artifacts that we can get back with this. It also does cycle for 2. So like at the bare minimum, it's actually the floor on this is still quite high. But there are other cards it gets back as well, and that is all of the 2-mana Extort creatures. The 3-mana Extort creatures, I've been doing some work lately with Erosium MTG in the Common Connoisseurs server, and talking about damage that goes to each player. And I'm starting to find myself at the conclusion that the 2-mana Extort creatures are probably the most playable of them because of how they compare ultimately to other to other creatures that drain, that don't take mana to activate, right? That don't take other spells and more mana to activate. This is really good that it works with those, and the fact that it cycles is fabulous as well. So the next one is Mandibular Kite. Mandibular Kite is a 1/1 living weapon, artifact equipment, gets +1/+1 in flying, has equip for 4. And this card is actually kind of one of my favorite cards to see printed in these new sets. It is, just a fairly generic creature that when it dies, it leaves you something behind of value. And what's important about this is that when we play these high tempo creatures, these cheap, evasive 1/1s with flying, it can be hard to still have cards in hand when we fill our deck with cheap stuff. If we empty our hand on turn 3 or turn 4, we need to have stuff to do with our mana if our stuff dies. And this is where Mandibular Kite comes into play. We can sink our mana, 4 mana, into taking Kutzil, modifying Kutzil, right? Granting it additional power, and then making it fly so that we can attack. So turn 1, we go Mandibular Kite. Turn 2, maybe it's Sergovian Angel and Miner's Guidewing. And then turn 3, play Kutzil, swing 3 of them at 3 different players, draw 3 cards. So it fits really well into that archetype. But it also fits really well with Rayav. And that's because Rayav says it needs to be equipped, and it's a germ token, so it is equipped. So this has got double strike. So if we put a Bone Splitter on this, it hits for 6, which is really good. And when it dies, we can then equip something else, which is then going to get +1/+1 and double strike and flying, which is great. So I really like this card quite a lot. And of course, the funny thing is that ultimately this card is like not super splashy, but it's so good for our format, just adding more, a higher density of this kind of an effect. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Rose-Caught Knight. And this one, I don't really have a super good grip on exactly what decks would actually make the slots available for a 5-mana 3/4 like this. It has Vigilance, which is great. That actually is a pretty nice keyword, especially when you're working with enchantments. If you can make a big vigilant creature, big, it acts as a form of life gain and a sturdy bit of pressure. It's quite nice that we actually do get rewarded. Still, we still get something out of this card if we don't find anything. But it's top 6 cards of your library, reveal an artifact or an enchantment, and put it into your hand. It is funny that it says artifact. I would have thought that it would say creature or enchantment. But regardless, Dig 6 is great. It is kind of expensive. We can flicker it. You can reanimate it. Not exactly sure where this goes, and that's why it belongs in honorable mentions, I think. But very cool card. Nyxborn Unicorn. This is a really interesting one because this adds more cards to the format that allow us to repeatedly put counters on creatures, which is really important because the creature that we bestow this onto has Mentor. If we just cast the Nyxborn Unicorn, it's just going to have Mentor anyways, which means that it's going to buff up something with less power. This kind of a card is really, really good because it's an enchantment, right? So this could go in something like Satyr Enchanter, but it could also go into something like Conclave Mentor, where repeatedly putting counters and then having them doubled is really good. And I think it's just a generically very interesting card. It's not bad. I don't know the exact homes for it, but something worth considering when you're assembling your decks. And then the last one I want to mention is Wing It. And this one actually, I think, is a clearer include in a lot more white decks. +2/+2 is fine. That is a break point for Illuminator Virtuoso. I will mention that. This card just does a lot on it. You're getting 2 power. You're putting a flying counter on the creature. And flying counter is like a lot better than most other kinds of counters you could put on a creature. If you put like Death Touch on a creature, so it trades off and it dies and it kills something else, then you're kind of like turning it into a removal spell. But flying is like a persistent form of aggression that just repeatedly generates more and more damage, right? And it also scries one. The deck that this really fits best into is Illuminator Virtuoso, which is a 2-mana double strike with Connive Heroic. So whenever you target it, you connive. And a card like this, giving +2/+2, permanently granting it flying and scrying one, is just fabulous. So definitely a great card for your white decks. Moving into blue. The first one is Utter Insignificance. And to no one's surprise, this is a staple. This card is very good. 2 mana, flash, enchant a creature. It loses all abilities and its base power and toughness go to 1/1. Okay? With the added ability to pay 2 and a colorless to exile the damn thing. This is so good. The colorless mana requirement might be tough sometimes, specifically to have the colorless pip to do this. But when we do, this card is going to be fabulous. The ability to, say a person wants to unlock their commander from underneath this, they have to spend a removal spell to bounce it, and then instead we exile their creature. And they have to like run into that. But the big deal here is that it's flash and it's 2 mana. So this basically compares really nicely with the other options we've had previously. Because previously, the only aura that we had that was flash that turned off all abilities, basically being a removal spell, was Tamiyo's Completion, which was 4 mana. And ultimately just like was never, it was just too expensive for what it did. It does hit artifacts. It does hit creatures and artifacts, which is great. It does tap it down, which means that this is a very durable form of commander removal, I would say. But Utter Insignificance is literally half the mana and actually gives us the ability to kill it if we ever wanted to, which is pretty darn cool. The comparisons we have are to like Witness Protection, to Stasis Field. There's also Deep Freeze. And these were really the ones that we tended to see the most of. Witness Protection because it was 1 mana. That was a big deal when it was printed. Stasis Field because it's a 0/2, which means that if you're a deck like TPI, Third Path Iconoclast, that wants to be able to swing into your opponent while also locking down their commander, means that you could swing in and they wouldn't be able to reset their commander. Same thing with Deep Freeze. Because the way that these auras, if it's just like Frogify or Witness Protection work, is that you kind of can't attack that person unless you're willing to turn off your aura removal and give them the commander back. And that's not great. We want to be able to disrupt and pressure at the same time. And Deep Freeze allows you to do that because Deep Freeze gives them a 0/4, which means that if they have a lightning bolt and they want to reset their commander, they can't. They can block, but their creature probably isn't going to die. So very durable forms of removal. And Utter Insignificance beats all of these simply by having flash. It's cheap. It has flash. This is going to see play on a lot of blue decks. It's very, very good. Definitely going to be seeing a lot of this. And because it has flash, you can also tutor for it with like Mystical Teachings in Dimir decks. You can tutor for this thing. Very cool. The next one we're going to talk about is Serum Visionary. And I think this one is also a staple. There are a lot of blue decks that just want things that enter the battlefield and give you a card back that then can block or be flickered. And this is where Serum Visionary comes into play. Serum Visionary, of course, is just Serum Visions attached to a creature. And it comes in the long line of creatures that kind of do something like this, right? Like Seagate Oracle, looking at the top two, taking one into your hand, or something like hard evidence, which they call Craben Inspector. And this, of course, is basically Serum Visionary or Seagate Oracle, but you're only drawing one card, and it comes with 2 permanents, and you can do it in 2 installments. So very similar in that way. And then, of course, Philology Archaeologist and Augur of Bolus, stuff like that. So this joins that pack of cards, and they give us ways to infinite outlets for flicker combos. So if you have one of these in play and you make infinite mana with your Archaeomancer Ghostly Flicker, then you can take your infinite mana and you can just flicker the Pneumatic Wall or the Archaeomancer with the Serum Visionary and draw your whole deck, right? So these do a lot, right? They're a combo outlet, they're a blocker that can like guard our life total, and then they're also just like early value plays, and even an attacker, but they're great. And so the decks that I expect to see this in, I think that I'm quite interested in the adaptations of Abdel that are, and really not just Abdel, but all Flicker combo decks that are moving towards just having a higher density of permanence. And I think this is a really great card for Abdel in that way, because it's, infinite mana outlet, but it's also just digging a little bit. Every time you flicker it, you're digging even more. I think that this is a really, really good card for Abdel, particularly Abdel Blue, Sword Coast Sailor. But also something like Tatyova. Tatyova can, if you're playing Tatyova in a primarily flicker shell, then something like Serum Visionary is just like another creature that draws a card, makes a body, protects your life total, right? It's just great. We love this kind of stuff in our format here. The other place for it as well could be something like Scholar of the Ages. I don't know exactly. You'd have to talk to somebody who's really much more clued into kind of the direction that they're taking Scholar of the Ages. One of those community members is Mizu-san, who took Scholar of the Ages to a win in, I can't remember if it was the Sanctuary or the Common Cause. But this is a card that they could potentially play there as well to just give themselves a little bit of a life total buffer with a blocker that also digs them towards their combo. So yeah, moving on to my favorite color, okay, black. And why the special graphic, you might ask? I want you to guess how many of the new black cards, of the 12 that they printed that are just black, how many of them do you think are playable? Maybe drop a thing in the chat here. Give me a number out of 12. I'm gonna let the numbers come in here, and I'm gonna drop it. Too Much Do says 10. Okay. Yep. All, Dagon says. Too Much Do says bangers. Yeah. Okay. It's 11 of them. Are they all staple? No. Are all of them like surprisingly good? Yes. And it would be unfair, given that I'm so obsessed with Plunder, that we didn't start with Eviscerator's Insight, okay? If Eviscerator's Insight is just like, they printed Costly Plunder, and then WotC was like, Hold My Beer, Deadly Dispute. And like, Hold My Beer, Reckoner's Bargain. Hold My Beer, Fanatical Offering, right? And it just goes, and then they're like, Corrupted Conviction. Have another Village Rites, sure. And then they printed this, which technically is the largest single volume of card draw on any black card that isn't like Monarch, basically. This card draws 4 cards on it. And yeah, if you did it all at once, it's 7 mana. But the fact that it is in installments is just even better, right? Artifact or creature, draw 2, 5 mana, flashback. There's like a lot of homes for this card. It's really good in any Tormod deck because you literally like make the zombies that you then can sacrifice because flashback leaves the graveyard. This card is cracked. It's very good. And what's funny is that this isn't busted. It's just good. And that's what I love about the way WotC is printing cards right now, is that this is just a good card that goes in kind of the current predominant norm of how to build black decks, and this just adds more to it, right? The funny thing is that, you know, this card is staple, and in some ways it's kind of gonna like mess up my nomenclature, because with this card, I don't even know if we always play Costly Plunder. It's possible we still do, but like Costly Plunder is the worst of the, it's the worst of the plunder cards we do play, right? Because it does nothing else, right? There's nothing else that comes with it. And now Eviscerator's Insight might just be replacing it, which is kind of funny. But plunder really still is kind of the best terminology, I think, for it. So yeah, the namesake card might be leaving, but I've been predicting this. I think plunder cards are going to cycle through all of the different kinds of permanents, right? We're going to get a token permanents. We're probably going to get a blood token one, maybe a junk token, maybe a food token plunder, right? All these plunders are going to like produce something extra. And in this case, it just happens to be Cast It Again. Love this card. It's going to go in a lot of different homes. And it's fabulous. So the next one, very pushed. Okay, this card is pushed. Eviscerator's Insight's just good, right? It's the same effect that you can cast again for 5, and 5, of course, is kind of a lot. Oh, what's up, Sniff Out? Good to see you, buddy. Welcome, my friend. By the way, for those interested in a casual breakdown, which will cover more cards than we're going to cover today, make sure tomorrow to check in to the PDH pals for their set review. It's going to be awesome. So, but yeah, this next one, very pushed. Okay. And that's Accursed Marauder. Holy smokes, right? Sniff says, I'm only staying for a second because I'm trying to stay fresh for tomorrow. Yeah, I feel you, buddy. Well, don't worry. It's all going to be all through the eyes of competitive in this case. So we won't poison or sully the purity of your casual vibe. Accursed Marauder. This card is staple. Okay. It makes you sick. It makes me happy. Maybe that makes me the sick one. But holy smokes. Why is it staple? There's a number of different things. ETB, each player sacks a non-token creature. Okay. And this is for 2 mana. 2 mana. Okay. Look at some of the other things though too. This is a warrior, and warrior works with party mechanic, and zombie is a very, very good kindred group. Okay, it's a very good kindred group at common. Common, we have so many good zombies. Gem Palm Polluter, Shepherd of Rot, Gary, Ghoul Caller's Chant. There's so many good zombies in this format. And Accursed Marauder just joins them. At 2 mana, that's going to unlock some other stuff as well. But look at what we had before. Chain Devil was 4 mana. And yeah, you get half the stats, but it's actually, now it's a zombie, right? Which is better. This is just better than Chain Devil, like in every way. Like, because you're going to sack the Accursed Marauder, and you can do it on turn 2. This is so brutal. This is good against like so many different decks, right? Being able to deploy turn 2 Mass Edict like this, strong against combo, very strong against combo. But the 2 mana cost is important for other reasons. You cannot unearth a Chain Devil. You can unearth an Accursed Marauder, which kind of brings it closer to, your Demon's Disciple, right? But then look at this. Look at the power creep. 3 mana for the same effect, except worse. Unless you're against slimes, which I learned the hard way. Chain Devil and Accursed Marauder do not destroy slime against humanity because they're tokens. Okay, pretty brutal, but because edicts are one of the better ways to deal with slimes. But look at the power creep: 1 mana less, and it's got a better effect. You're gonna on average hit better things because you're not hitting tokens, which is great. And then if you compare it to the other effects we've gotten, Tithing Blade, Extract a Confession at 2 mana. These don't come on a body. These cannot be reused without an Archaeomancer or Mystic Sanctuary, something of that nature. Now, Extract a Confession is special because it more frequently, or almost always, gets exactly what you want from your opponents. Accursed Marauder does better, or does better than a Demon's Disciple because we're getting non-tokens, which means we get the Abdel instead of the tokens, we get the TPI instead of the soldier token, we get the pinger instead of some random shit. We get better things when it says non-token. Extract a Confession says the biggest thing, which is great when we extract a confession and we collect evidence. But they really can't be reused as easily. Tithing Blade you can get back with things like Emergency Weld, Recommission, and there's a few other things as well, or maybe a Core Skyfisher and picking it up. But Accursed Marauder, very, very easy to reuse with a Witch's Cottage, a Mortuary Mire, Reaping the Graves, Tortured Existence. The list goes on and on and on. So yeah, this card is pushed, and it is absolutely staple. Yeah, of course, here's the lands that I'm talking about, which if you're playing black, like, you better have a damn good reason for not playing these if you don't. So on to our next black staple, and that is Retrofitted Transmogrant. And this card is really cool. I like this card a lot. I like that we're getting more of these in black. We're getting reassembling skeletons in black. More. This card is really cool. It's 1 mana, 1/1. It's an artifact and it's a zombie. 2 relevant types, right? So it's going to feed cranial plating. It's a zombie, so there might be some synergies there. DBZ Dragon says, "Hold my beer, dude. My whiskers jelly loves it." And Retrofitted Transmogrant is great because it comes down on turn 1. It turns on turn 2 Plunder. Turns on our card advantage. And then when it comes back, we are paying 1 more mana for it. And what we're getting in return is 2 +1/+1 counters. So what's quite cool about this is we play Retrofitted Transmogrant, and then we play Accursed Marauder, sacking the Transmogrant, and then later on we can bring back the Transmogrant, and we're actually like upgrading on our power, which is great. This also works with anything that's putting things into the graveyard, like milling, because it's helping offset the fact that it's like not really card advantage. It's more like you're just seeing cards in your graveyard. So this is absolutely staple. This is probably going to go in 90% of black decks, if I were to guess. And the more of these we get, the better that some other cards become that we're going to be playing too. But yeah, like I was pointing out, 1 mana, brings itself back from the graveyard. Of course, this is the best thing to pair with all the plunder. And it's just a cheap body. Like sometimes you know people have a slow start. You play this out on turn 1 and you poke people for 2 or 3. Gets in a little bit of damage. It's an infinite blocker, you know, although it does come into play tapped. But if you block on your opponent's turn when they go to combat and then you bring it back and it's tapped, then it untaps during your turn, which is great. So we can never like surprise people with it, but yeah. Moving on to the next card, and that is Scurrilous Sentry, which is a 4 mana 2/3 human knight rogue with menace, and when it ETBs or it attacks, you connive. Now, what card did we literally just cover? This card loves to be put in the graveyard. That just screams value to me. And now we have 5 of them. We have Haunt of the Dead Marshes, Persistent Specimen, Retrofitted Transmogrant, Clay Revenant, and Sanitarium Skeleton. Okay? All of those cards. Now, when you get to 5 of them, it starts to kind of look like a card like this. Non-zero number of times is going to draw you a card and put something into the graveyard that wants to be there, which is great. This is really comparable to something like Thorn of the Black Rose, and in my mind, it is thus staple. The fact that it has evasion, the fact that it grows, the fact that it does something on ETB and then repeatedly afterwards does more things with relevant creature types. Human and rogue are both relevant. Knight, not so much. There's like one card that works with knights, or maybe some random commanders, but this is great. It also works great with the initiative because if we go into the secret entrance maybe the second time and we don't really need that land anymore, we can just pitch the land and draw a new card, right? And the fact that it has menace is really, really good. The evasion is very welcome on a card like this. So it's a more aggressive version of Thorn of the Black Rose. And I think that while this does not take the slot of Thorn of the Black Rose, this could replace something like Staunch Throne Guard, or it could come in addition to it. because ultimately I think that the body that we're getting is good. The price we're getting at is good. It's more aggressive. And I think ultimately this is kind of goes into that slot of like 4 mana cards like Vicious Battle Rager that give us some repeat source of value, which is great. And of course, yep, I'm a little talking over my presentation here. Let me get back to where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. All the arrows and everything. Oh yeah, of course. Here's all the the graphics, of course. Yep, 2/3 of course is important. Having that toughness means that we're able to use sweepers and not lose it. 2 toughness, we need to get above that in black if we really want to have a deck that can maximize some of its best cards like Pestilence and Crypt Rats. And then the creature types are also good, Dragon says. Yeah, exactly. Like Rogue turns on Prowl. Human can turn on things like Of One Mind. Potentially, yeah, those are the main ones. There's a couple of other ones that work with humans too, but those are the main ones. Over time, as these accumulate, you start to see more and more examples of where it works well. But this would be a great card in like Real Surreal, for example, because it's got evasion, it grows with counters, and those counters can be proliferated with cards like Thrumming Bird. It has initiative in the command zone, which means that if we flood out on mana and we gain the initiative with this in play, so we play this into Real Surreal. Real Surreal goes into the secret entrance, gets us a land. We can immediately connive it away and then keep on going, which is great. Now into black honorable mentions. First one we're going to talk about is Drossclaw, and Drossclaw is another one of these cards. It's just like there's nothing broken about this card, but it is a role player that is very, very welcome in the format. And the main thing we're playing this for is that each opponent loses 1 life every time we attack while giving the creature +1/+1. That's really why we're playing it, which makes it kind of similar to a card like Pulse Tracker, Night Market Lookout, Thornbow Archer, things like that are basically repeatedly draining everybody. And while those creatures do go in a specific black burn archetype, that you might see with something like Loyal Subordinate, but it's not restricted to Loyal Subordinate. You can do it with other commanders too, like Passageway Seer and stuff. But the difference is that this here, when the creature dies, we get to attach it to something else, which means that it never really goes away. This is an artifact that artifact removal is not like super good in the format, and so generally speaking, it's not really right to run a whole lot of it. So Drossclaw is just going to continually like equip to creatures, make them bigger, and then help us drain people out of the game. And it has some really good pairings. Putting Drossclaw on Okiba Reckoner Raid is really good. It's highly synergistic in that if we resolve Okiba Reckoner Raid, we're going to get 2 drain triggers, which is about 7% of the life table of the total of the table, right? 7%, 2 each. And if we attack once, that's 10%, right? If we attack again, that's another 2.5%, 3%, right? So this all adds up, okay? But the key thing, oh yeah, and I'm, of course, show that here. But the key thing, and the reason we still play it, is because Drossclaw is giving us 2 permanents, which fits perfectly into Plunder. We don't care about the germ. We don't care about, maybe we get our first attack in and then we need to draw some cards. So we just sacrifice the germ. And later on, maybe we just have better things, better things to find in our deck. We need to find an answer. We can sacrifice the Drossclaw. It doesn't really matter that much. It's just a 2-mana card that does some draining and buffs something up, right? And so 2 permanents on 1 body is a great thing to be looking for. This card is also really, really good in Gut Iron Throne. This card is very strong because we can attack, sacrifice the germ, we get our skeleton, and then the skeleton can be equipped to give it 5/2 drain, all that stuff. You can even equip this to Gut so that Gut survives the 2 damage sweepers. So perfect for Gut here as well. DBZ Dragon says this could fit into Spectre to give it 3 toughness. Yep, it definitely could. Any deck where where you have stuff that you'd like to be able to help survive, 2 popping Crypt Rats for 2 or Pestilence for 2. This is going to be really nice. It's going to be welcome in those decks. This will definitely go in like Loyal Subordinate. It'll go into basically any of these like black burn decks that I've been working on, and they're pretty interesting because these black burn decks, they can be control, aggro, or mid range, and they have a similar like approach to them. It's just about how buck wild you're trying to get. So, but yeah, works great with these plunder effects. We can plunder away one or both of them if we need to at any given time that we need to do that. So, and looks like I'm just looking down my my slides here. It looks like I duplicated something here. Honorable mentions. Got to get back on track here. Yes, next honorable mention is Fetid Gargantua. And this card is really cool. And I want to figure out more ways to work with this card that are just good, that don't like require that we bend our deck in weird ways. Fetid Gargantua is a 5-mana 4/4 with Adapt 2 for 3. And whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on Fetid Gargantua, you may draw 2 and lose 2. This can happen over and over and over and over again. And it's not like impossible to imagine drawing like a lot of cards with this card, right? And also just being a big 4/4 that becomes a 6/6. It's a little hard to connect with damage on this card unless you're punching the combo player, because it doesn't have any evasion or anything like that. But one of the best accompanying colors with this card is, of course, green. And I'm going to show you exactly why that is. But the direct comparison would be to something like Phyrexian Gargantua. Phyrexian Gargantua, same size, same creature type. It's a little bit cheaper to just play the Fetid Gargantua and get it out, and then you can kind of get the draw in installments, or you can play the Phyrexian Gargantua and just pay for all of it up front. I think the Fetid Gargantua is better. 1 mana less, and then when we need more cards, we just adapt and it becomes much bigger. So kind of joins that territory. But there's other things too that generically work with black mid-range and control and even aggro, which is the Undercity, the initiative. The Forge allows us to put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So if we play Fetid Gargantua, we adapt it and we draw 2, we can actually go to our upkeep. So we can, if we have Fetid Gargantua in play, and we play Vicious Battle Rager or Underdark Explorer or some initiative card, we go into the secret entrance, we pass the turn, maybe we don't have any more mana up, we untap, we adapt at instant speed, adding 2 counters to Fetid Gargantua, draw 2. And then we to Forge, and we target the Fetid Gargantua with the Forge, and we draw 2 more cards. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with Throne of the Dead 3 because the creature enters with the 3 +1/+1 counters. They aren't put onto it. That enters with, which is sad. Because there's no opportunity to respond to that. It just comes into the battlefield with the counters. There's no like, with the counters on the stack, I adapt. So that's kind of a nombo that you would not have a problem with if you were running Phyrexian Gargantua. But yeah, worth mentioning. But the really disgusting stuff is with Sadistic Glee. Because if you put Sadistic Glee on Fetid Gargantua and then you start popping Pestilence and Crypt Rats, you're going to draw a disgusting number of cards. Like, you might not want to pay all the life that you could. You might draw, like, you might have the ability to draw like 10 or 12 cards with that combination of like Pestilence, Crypt Rats, Evankar's Justice, Arms of Adar, you know, just some sweeper, and then Fetid Gargantua with a Sadistic Glee on it. Because every time a creature dies, you're going to put a counter on it, and each one of those counters is going to trigger the draw 2. And you might not even have the life to pay for it all. It'll be like Corpse Augur, where you're like, I can't actually target that person with 12 creatures in their graveyard, because if I do, I'm dead. Birdmath, welcome to the chat. Is MH3 fully spoiled? It is, correct. Yep, we are going to go through all the cards that are good for cPDH right here and now. Ben Langner, Langner. Ben, welcome. Good to have you here. Gotta love Magic Rules. Yeah, I know. That one kind of hurt me. I was definitely hoping that you could flip this into play off of Throne of the Dead 3, but There we go. You gotta love this like janky computer streaming setup I've got here. Yes, you said it right. Good, good. But wait, there's more. We also have Eternal Thirst. I love the art on this card, by the way. Eternal Thirst gives lifelink. It's only whenever creatures your opponent controls die. Sadistically is our cards too. So sadistically is even more screwed up because you like plunder away like a persistent specimen, draw 2, sadistically puts the counter on Fetid Gargantua and then draws you 2 more. Whew. Yeah, heavy breath, heavy breath. Eternal Thirst giving lifelink is also pretty sick here too. But wait, there's more. Because of course there's Predatory Hunger. And I mentioned that green is a really good home for this. This set had a lot of +1/+1 counters matters for black creatures and for green creatures because it was like the color of adapt. And there is definitely something waiting in the wings here in cPDH now because as I'm going to show you later on when we get to green, there are some +1/+1 counter matter synergies and even combos now that are possible because of this set. But Predatory Hunger, this is just like pure filth. Pure filth. Whenever your opponent casts a creature spell, you just put a counter on it and draw 2 cards. This is nauseating, man. This is a lot of card draw if you manage to get this. People are going to stop you, right? But like, it's a cool thing you can do. Next thing I wanted to mention is, of course, Wither and Bloom. This is a new removal spell, -3/-3 at instant speed for 1 and a black. And then later you can pay 1 and a black to exile it and put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. And I may actually play Wither and Bloom for other reasons. Like -3/-3 is pretty good. It doesn't kill Abdel, it doesn't kill Pneumatic Wall, and there's definitely bigger creatures that it also doesn't kill. But the +1/+1 counter that we can put on a creature is surprisingly relevant. Being able to make a Crypt Rats a 2/2 at any time so we can pop it for 1 over and over and over and over again is good. Being able to take your commander, maybe it's 2 toughness commander, and make it a 3 toughness creature so you can pop your sweepers is good. And of course, putting a +1/+1 counter on Fetid Gargantua is good. And Ben says, Queza Augur of Agonies is a cool home for it. Oh, for Fetid Gargantua. Yeah, potentially. Yeah, Queza could run this and the Gargantua. The other Gargantua, the Phyrexian one. Definitely. Yep. The next card that works with this card is Expanding Ooze. This is a 3-mana 3/3 with Adapt 1 for 2 mana. And whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target modified creature. This is really good with Fetid Gargantua because you can adapt the Fetid Gargantua, attack with the Expanding Ooze. Whenever it attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on the Fetid Gargantua. You get it. Yep. And you're right. Queza does negate the life loss. That is definitely a good thing to do. So there's more though. I looked up every card that repeatedly puts +1/+1 counters on creatures that seemed like it would work with it. And Giant Beaver is another one of them. So we could play the Giant Beaver. Giant Beaver on turn 4, turn 5, Fetid Gargantua, and we can immediately saddle it and draw 2, which is pretty cool because we're going to get a +1/+1 counter on the creature that saddled it. And basically the way to look at that is like, yeah, you could adapt first and then saddle, you know, maybe you want to wait for that. But I think that like if you have a way to put a counter on these creatures, I don't think you should like wait for it necessarily. I don't think you need to necessarily hold on to it and then adapt and then put the counters on it. That's like, you know, that's definitely the dream, but don't limit yourself to only adapting first and then putting counters on it. Unless you're just like really low on cards, you really need to dig, something like that. Another great example is Ivy Lane Denizen. And Ivy Lane Denizen, you know, this is a great card in the format. 4 mana for a 2/3 Elf Warrior. Whenever another green creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So when we have Fetid Gargantua in play, we play green creatures and we put counters on Fetid Gargantua and we just draw like insane number of cards, right? This is one of the most powerful card draw engines that we've ever gotten in black. The fact that it's draw 2, I mean, it kind of feels like it should have been draw 1, but I'm not complaining. We got Great Sword of Tyr, and we also have Armory of Erois. I think that these two cards probably don't ever see play alongside Fetid Gargantua just because of what these colors do, and this just doesn't really fit into it. Great Sword of Tyr tends to go in decks that have a lot of like really cheap creatures that are evasive. You can tap down your opponent's creatures and get in and put counters on it. But, you know, it's a possibility. And then Armor of Erois, which is just a worse version of it. The next card, not like a banger, but it's kind of cool. I really like this sort of like revisiting these cards. This is Gravedigg for 2 mana. We can choose one, make a 2/2 black zombie token, or we can return a creature card from our graveyard to our hand, and then it has Entwine. So basically, this right here translates to just a broken down sorcery version of Gravedigger. And I actually quite like it because this, you know, has homes in decks like Witherbloom Apprentice that really just wants creatures that come on spells. Because we're going to get our Drain trigger. So you can get back a Fleshbag Marauder with this. You can get back a Chain Devil, you know, something like that. And then if you want, you can make the body as well to plunder away or to block with or something like that. The next one, I think, is one of the most exciting black cards in the format. And my emotional roller coaster with this card just was like up and down, up and down. Kami of Jealous Thirsts. 3 mana for a 1/3 Death Touch. There's a lot to like about this stat line. 3 toughness meets that bar. 3 mana is like the most we really want to spend for these, but it's got Death Touch. So this card is probably going to end up trading with something big or eating a removal spell so that somebody can attack us and not have to worry about losing their big threat to our Death Touch. But it's the ability below that we're really playing this card for. And that is 5 mana. And read this carefully. Each opponent loses 2 life and we gain 2 life. This ability costs 5 less to cast, so free, to activate if you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn. Activate only once each turn. When I first read this, I didn't see the part about the 3 cards. I just saw that you could activate it and drain, and I was like, that's you know, this is really, really good because we're just like getting free activations of this card. And then somebody was like, oh, it's 3, and I was like, oh, that's kind of hard because we really only have like 1 card that draws, or 2 in black that draws 3 cards at a time, and that's Casting of Bones and Siphon Mind. And now, of course, this you know, frickin' Fetid Gargantua card. But we have an opening draw. We draw a card every turn, and then when we plunder, that's 3 cards in total. So all we need to do is draw plunder cards, and Kami of Jealous Thirst is a repeatable drain 2, which is pushed, okay? Any plunder, and this is free. It doesn't require us tapping, okay? You could literally play Kami of Jealous Thirsts, have a single mana up for Village Rites, and sack your Persistent Specimen, and immediately drain everybody for 2, and then continue to do it over and over and over again. If you get more than 1 activation off of this card, it is way, way above the curve. Like, you know, when you look at cards like the baseline for it, the floor is Vampire Spawn, which is 3 mana, has a, you know, a durable body on it that drains everybody for 2, and we gain 2 life. So it creates an 8-point life differential, and it takes approximately 7.5% of everybody's life total, of all the table's life total. And if Jealous Thirsts, just by doing the plunder stuff, draws, you know, activates more than once, it's way above the curve, right? Then you're talking about 13% of the table's life total, right? And then if you do it again, we're talking like 20% of the table's life total, right? And yeah, all the comments we're getting here, Baron could use this card. Absolutely, Baron could use it well. Birdbath, welcome, says, this is going in a deck I'm working on. That's really good. I'm glad to hear that. This is going in a lot of decks I'm working on. Too Much Dew says, going in Undead Augur for certain. Yeah, Undead Augur, Corpse Augur, both of those, absolutely. Any deck that's like, you know, that can draw multiple cards per turn, any plunder deck, and if you're playing black and you're not playing plunder, you're probably doing it wrong. This card is just really good. And then Birdbath makes a really good point. It didn't have to have Death Touch. It didn't have to have Death Touch, and if it didn't have Death Touch, we would still play this shit. We would still play this, right? Like, it's great. This card is really awesome. It's not busted, it's just good. It's going to be hard to trigger during your opponent's turns because you're going to need, like... oh, I just realized, actually, this does work with Monarch. If you go, like, draw for turn, play Arkham's Astrolabe, or play Nihil Spellbomb, and then with the Monarch, you draw your third card. You activate during your end step, and it works. So it works with Plunder, it works with Monarch, it works with one of the stages on the initiative as well, if you've drawn any other cards this turn, which, you know, we have lots of ways to do in black. It'll be hard to trigger during your opponent's turns. One of the ways you could do that is you would save your Nihil Spellbomb to sack to your Deadly Dispute or something like that. Then you could get multiple activations off in a single turn cycle, which is great. And Death Touch infinitely more powerful than 2. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Death Touch is pretty Giga Chad for sure. Next one up is Refurbished Familiar. This is a 4-mana zombie rat for 2/1 zombie rat with flying and affinity for artifacts. Didn't expect to see a whole lot of that shit anymore. This card is probably very, very, very bad for 60 card Pauper. I'm just going to put it out there, okay? Like, this card is cancer. Cancer. You are definitely going to make people, like, discard nothing and then just draw a card instead. This is a really good card. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, which, if you've seen many of my live streams, I think I've made a clear case for my attitude on mass discard. I think mass discard is very, very bad, with the exception of black-based combo decks, particularly those that don't have blue in them. And this is really, really good in one or two particular places, because it has to be in a deck that ramps. So it needs to be black, it wants to be a deck that flickers, and it needs to have a lot of artifacts in it. Okay? And of course, we're not paying 4 for this. We're paying 1. Maybe 2. Maybe 2. But yeah, 1. And the crazy thing is, for each opponent who can't discard a card, you draw a card. If you empty all of your opponent's hands because you're flickering ETB discard creatures, this could easily be like a double Siphon Mind. You could easily draw 6 cards off of this with, like, I don't know. There might be a particular deck like Abdel, you know? Black Abdel seems like a very, very scary place for this card. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. This card will definitely win you games as an Abdel player. It's going to clear everybody's hands, and then you're just going to have all the cards, right? But yeah, it compares most directly to cards like Liliana's Spectre, but it's just, like, way better. This is just better in every way. It's a zombie. It's an artifact. You're always going to have an artifact in play for this to discount it. So it will be 3 mana minimum. I think it's going to be 2 mana most of the time, and maybe 1 in a lot of cases. But yeah, it's just got upside. So it's 1 mana in a lot of black decks, exactly. The next thing we're going to talk about is red. So we're going to go into the staple red cards, and the first one we're going to talk about is Glimpse the Impossible, which, mad credit to this artist, Justine Jones. This shit is metal. I love it. Gisela beheld true divinity and was humbled. Eric Ingram, welcome. Sup, y'all? So I'm stoked for the affinity for artifact uncommons. Yeah, I don't have any of those, I think, on the list of cards that I have as, like, staple or as, like, introducing into the format. But yeah, there's a new Frogmere, I think it's called. Yeah, but Birdbath says, this is already in the deck I'm working on. Awesome. Glimpse the Impossible. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You can only play them this turn. At the beginning of your next end step, if any of those cards remain exiled, put them into your graveyard and then create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn token for each card put into your graveyard this way, and they can sacrifice to make mana. This is staple as shit. This card is really, really good. It's not broken, it's just good. 3 mana is a little bit... is a little bit tough with the fact that you have to use those cards this turn for this to be card draw. For this to be card advantage, we have to be able to cast it and then cast all the cards, which they kind of designed it in a way so that you don't get punished if you can't. But ideally you'd put this in like a big mana Rakdos deck, or a big mana deck that has red in it. This is actually really, really good in, holy shit. Liara Portier. Holy smokes. This is broken in Liara Portier because it's 1 red. We just cast it for 1 red if we attack 3 players. We exile the cards. All cards being cast from exile, right, are costing 3 less. And then we just vomit our hand into play. That's super, super broken. But I kind of look at this card like a Siphon Mind a little bit. It's like a red Siphon Mind. We don't play Siphon Mind because it discards cards. We play it because it's a 4 mana draw 3. And we'll play more 4 mana draw 3s when they print them. It was really never about the discard. Glimpse the Impossible. You see 3 cards. You're not always going to get to cast them, so it's not always going to get card advantage, right? But I really like the way that they balance this, because it's kind of like a combination of Reckless Impulse. At best, it's probably a Reckless Impulse, like a draw 2 for 3 mana. So it's a little bit more. But at worst, if you cast none of the cards, it is Hordling Outburst. But it's like better than Hordling Outburst, because all these Eldrazi, they can sacrifice to make mana. This card is really, 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 oh my god, it's so good in Earnest Street Urchin. Earnest Street Urchin, this is a disgusting card. Because if you just need the fodder, it's just 3 mana, make 3 bodies. If you need the cards, you just have all this mana and you cast it. And if you have something in between, then you might get more. But like, compare this to like Phyrexian Rager. 3 mana, makes a 2/2, lose a life, draw a card. This card, if it is 3 mana, cast 2 cards, so draw 2 basically, and then make a 0/1 that can sacrifice to make mana, that's well above the curve of a Phyrexian Rager. So I like this card a lot. But moving on to one of the most staples in all of red, and that is Molten Gatekeeper. And this card is going to see so much play. Get your foil copies, get your surge foils, whatever you need. This card is pushed, okay? Not broken, pushed. 2 in a red, 2/3, Artifact Creature Golem. We're working with some amazing typing here. The Golem is relevant for Iktekik. The Artifact Creature part of it relevant for other things. But yeah, 3 mana for a 2/3. It survives 2 damage sweepers. It's an Artifact Creature that's going to trigger Reckless Fireweaver. And of course, it has the ability, ping everybody for 1 whenever another creature enters the battlefield. We had Impact Tremors, we had Witty Roastmaster, and now we have Molten Gatekeeper. And Molten Gatekeeper is definitely the best of them, except for Impact Tremors. So it's like second in line, I would say, among the creature pingers. This is relevant for mono-red mid-range decks, mono-red aggro decks in cPDH, and for any sort of go-wide token deck like TPI. We are now officially at the point where TPI genuinely has to like cut pingers. I'm at 11. I'm going to be cutting a pinger down to 10 because I just don't need 11 of them. You have a lot of good card draw. You only ever really want to draw 2 or 3 of them over the course of a game. And especially with a card like this, because you got Unearth, which is, why does this card have Unearth on it? I mean, this card would have been so perfectly reasonable if it was just like a 3 mana pinger for creatures, but the Unearth is surprisingly relevant. And the fact that it's an artifact means we're going to trigger Reckless Fireweaver as well as the Ingenious Artillerist here, which is great because that means that our pingers are pinging based on when they resolve too. It's just a very synergistic card with this. But the Unearth is also really nice because that means if it dies, or if you, for example, sacrifice it to, to an edict or something like that, we are going to push damage on people, right? Like, not only are you getting haste, but we're getting a permanent that we could sacrifice to a plunder effect, like Perilous Research, or, the Costly Plunder series, or also Demand Answers, right? So you can unearth it, do all the pinging you want to do, and then demand answers and sacrifice your artifact. And it doesn't matter. It just goes away, right? Like, it's going to go away anyways. This card is very, very good, but it's not just restricted to picker decks. This is also very good with combo decks. Oh, wait, actually, wait a second. I must have been delirious when I made this. This doesn't work with Malcolm. This is when an artifact, when a creature enters the battlefield. Yeah, I'm wrong. We're going to skip these slides here. I've got 2 slides dedicated to this here that don't make any sense. Yeah, forget you ever saw this. Yeah, no. The thing that I had in mind was Unearth is uncounterable, and so you can bring it back, and that starts the chain for when you have like a Reckless Fireweaver with a Ruined Stalactite. Then you can uncounterably unearth it. It comes into play, triggers the chain with the Reckless Fireweaver, Malcolm, and the Ruined Stalactite, and that makes it go infinite. But this deck needs artifacts entering the battlefield, so that's not another pinger for the purpose of comboing. So anyways, moving on from that embarrassment. We have this card. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this. I'm very interested to hear what you all think. But holy shit, we got split second at common. This is the first split second we've ever gotten at common. Eric Ingram says, I refuse to ignore slides when that much effort went into them. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I did actually put a lot of effort into this one, so I appreciate the kind comment. It's kind of funny. The beginning of if you compare the beginning of the presentation, which nobody will be doing, it's just for my own purposes. Beginning of the presentation to the end, I started to get better with the animations. Canva is giving us more tools. So, but yeah, Siege Smash. What the hell? Split second at common. Y'all best be learning your rules because split second's friggin' weird, right? I would never have guessed that we would get a split second card in this format. I don't hate it. Split second kind of breaks the rules of Magic in a lot of ways. So, it's good that this is like, that the ability it gives you is fairly tame. Although, honestly, if we got like a red removal spell for 2 mana that had split second, I'd still be stoked. Yeah, I would definitely play it. If this is like 2 mana, deal 4, destroy target artifact or something like that with split second, I'd play that in a heartbeat. But yeah, we got choose 1, destroy target artifact, or target creature gets +3/+2 and gains trample. Both of these are relevant, and we're going to talk a little bit about where. But first and foremost, artifact destruction is not very good in cPDH. And I see Birdbath here mentioning, I think Abrade is better, but split second is cool. I actually probably run against the grain here. I don't think Abrade is very good in cPDH. The artifacts that we have in cPDH are kind of as follows, and there's more, but like not that many more. There's like Ruined Stalactite, which is a really good, a very good combo card in Malcolm decks. This is probably one of the best targets for artifact removal, and this would be a really good way to utilize it, because of course this is for the Malcolm, Rograk, Breaches, Kedis decks out there for destroying that Ruined Stalactite. It also could potentially... No, it doesn't destroy any of their pingers because the Artillerist and the Ingenious Fireweaver, or Reckless Fireweaver and the Ingenious Artillerist are both just creatures. It does destroy Nurok Stealthsuit, which can help clear the way for removal on a pinger in Gretchen. It's a little bit niche. It's one of those things where maybe when they have the Nurok Stealthsuit, you're just like happy that you drew your Siege Smash. But it's like you're destroying the stealth suit and then you're killing the creatures. That takes another card, and they probably have counter spells. The best way to deal with the Nurok stealth suit is just like kill the creatures, just kill the untappers. Like, it's not that complicated. Kill and counter them. Just don't let them ever untap. Don't let them resolve, right? This is kind of like answering a problem that's too far down the line. If they have a creature that lived and they have a Nurok stealth suit in play that resolved, and then they get to activate the ability to attach it, something has gone fucking terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. So I don't love this here. But yeah, it is a tool against Gretchen, right? But there are some other things, and this is interesting because it is, activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So it doesn't get around Ashnod's Altar. So they will still be able to sack creatures as a mana ability with Siege Smash. This is another potential target for it. And the reason I mention it is because Sphinx Summoner is definitely picked up steam. Lobert has been playing really well with it and winning a lot of games, putting up a very strong win rate with the deck. And having answers to some of these things is good. Yo, what's up, Erosium? Good to see you, buddy. Because it does take out Mirror Retriever and Workshop Assistant. The problem is that these cards are tutorable with the commander, and they get each other back. So I don't love the idea of like including this or a Braid in a deck to answer this. The reality is that artifact destruction in this format is most important when you are a flicker deck that is working with your graveyard, because the things that you want to get rid of are Tormod's Crypt, Relic of Progenitus, Honored Heirloom, and Nihil Spellbomb, right? That's when graveyard hate is really good. So one of the better homes for Siege Smash is actually in in like Cormella or some sort of Grixis flicker deck, or Jeskai flicker deck like a Warden. What's it called? Warden of... It's the 5 mana Archaeomancer in the command zone, I want to say. Jeskai flicker deck. This would be great. I would 1000% recommend playing it there. Otherwise, the reason it's in honorable mentions is because the homes for it are limited. But there's some other things we can blow up. So let's talk about what these are. Stonework Pack Beast, Urn of Godfire, and Energy Refractor are all cards that actually don't just see play here, but they see play elsewhere. Cormella uses some mana filtering type stuff with these, these things that take 2 mana and turn it into 1. So they allow you to take any excess generation of mana and fix it into some color. And blowing up those in decks that aren't Sphinx Summoner with the Mirror Retriever Workshop Assistant is good. So against like Deskit, which is Dargo Kesket, or some sort of like Thermopod First Day of Class type thing. Maybe First Day of Class though usually just makes a bunch of red mana. But yeah, you're getting an idea here that this card has like specific homes that it'll be very good in. And one of them is with Dargo. Okay, so Dargo being just, having the ability to destroy a pesky artifact could be good. And at the very floor, +3/+2 makes Dargo a 2-shot, which is relevant. The trample doesn't matter, but yeah. And then Erosium here mentions, I don't know if you mentioned it, but Zada likes this a lot. Probably. Yeah. In fact, of all the things I've mentioned, Zada is hands down one of the more broken places for this. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and what's cool about it is because it's split second, it's going to help your stuff survive sweepers, right? So if they cast a 2 damage sweeper, or say we cast, what it actually looks like is that we can proactively protect our stuff while buffing them and giving them trample. So we can just cast this. You just cast it at sorcery speed, right? Or say somebody goes to sweep the board, and we go Siege Smash, and there's nothing else to be said about it because you can't cast any spells on the stack. So it's going to protect our board, or it's just going to be a big pump spell that makes it impossible for them to destroy our stuff because of split second. So once it's on the stack, they can't cast any spells. So Siege Smash is easily like one of the most, like broken cards in Zada, I would say. Very, very, very good for Zada. We got some more stuff. We got Sarpadian Simulacrum. We've got the Robot Goblin here. 1 mana, 1/1 haste. You can pay 4 to sack it to deal 4 to target creature. And why do I have Abdel here? Oh, because it deals 4. So when you think about removal, I really do try to think about, like, what am I trying to kill? And like -3/-3 is okay. 3 damage is okay if it's really cheap. but 4 damage is really the gold standard because it's killing Abdel, and of course it's also killing Pneumatic Wall. Okay, and that's important. So in a little way, you know, this here is kind of doing an impression of Flametongue Kavu, but you pay for it in installments. It also has haste, so we're going to get a little bit of damage in with the Simulacrum in the early game if we play it early, and then if we need to, we can activate it to deal 4 damage to target creature. So I like this. I like this kind of stuff. You know, dynamic, it's kind of modal, it's an aggressive threat that also has removal on it. And of course, we have to keep in mind that it's tutorable. We can find it with Goblin Matron because it's a goblin. And I really do like that. I think that, you know, having a suite of removal, draw, you know, other different stuff you can get with Goblin Matron is really cool. So there's another card, though, that's kind of like a Flametongue Kavu, also a goblin, also removal, and that is our first ever common, or first new common legendary creature. And that is Skoa Ember Mage, like a very Chad goblin. This is a very powerful goblin, clearly, because it's a 4/4. It's very big. Enters the battlefield, deals 4 to any target. This is Flametongue Kavu. We're going to be able to Grave Flicker this. We're going to be able to reanimate it. The second ability doesn't matter for us. Discard another card named the same thing. Sacrifice 2 mountains, deals 4, which is a great, what's that term? It's a great homage to Fire Blast, which I love. But the fact that it goes any target, any target, you can just go face with this. Yeah, I mean, this will definitely just like end games sometimes. You'll have like, you know, an Impact Tremors in play. You'll play this. It'll ping everybody for 1. You'll force somebody, and then you'll just like yeet them out of the game with a bunch of attackers. So I don't know where I put this card because it's 6 mana. It's a shame that we can't... You have to discard 2 cards. Discard another card named Skoa Ember Mage. Wait, this doesn't... Do you have to have 2 Skoas to Fire Blast somebody? Is this how this works? Another card. So it can't be this one. Okay, so the ability is largely useless. Yeah, okay, largely useless. But look, 6 mana, 4/4, Flametongue Kavu that also goes face. Arguably, it's a better Flametongue Kavu. It's also worse. Yeah, it's not a singleton card. Yeah, exactly. It's not Fury. That's right. Yeah. Imagine if we had something like Fury. Oh my god. I don't know if you want to imagine that, but the next one here is kind of interesting. Infernal Captor is also new. This is also a first. This is the first creature we've had that is a threaten effect on an ETB. Gain control of an artifact or creature. Untap that permanent. It gains haste until end of turn. All attached to an exploit trigger on a Devil Rogue. This is pretty cool. This might go in Gut. This could go in Gut decks because you gain control of their creature, and then you go to combat and you sacrifice the creature. It becomes like a removal spell. In a sense that also gives you a body in this case. But there's some really cool stuff you can do with Exploit here. Exploit allows you to sack any creature. So what if we target it with Not Dead After All? And we exploit it. The way that works is we go Infernal Captor. With the Exploit on the stack, we go Not Dead After All. Infernal Captor resolves... Exploit goes off. We sacked Infernal Captor. We gain control of a creature of theirs. When Infernal Captor dies, it's going to come back in with the +1/+1 counter. When it ETBs, it's going to exploit again. And in this case, we exploit their creature. And it dies. So this 2 together is like a weird 5 mana... 3/3 that kills a creature of your opponent. It's a thing you can do. Is it good? I don't know. But I just thought it was funny that you could like do funky things with exploit and shenanigans and whatnot. But there's also other things you could do too. If you have some sort of a sack outlet, then you can grave flicker this, gain control of your opponent's creature, sack it, gain control of your opponent's creature, sack it to your thing over and over and over again. That's why I watched the show, man. I would never have thought of that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was some fever dream shit. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, 8 hours into making this presentation, which has 220 slides in it. And I was like, oh, yeah, you could totally do that. That's crazy, man. Look at that. Look at what you can do. This is like some It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia shit right here. Yeah, so you're right, Birdbath, like they do, exactly. So it's not nothing. It's not nothing. Also, what about this? Your opponent attacks, you block with Infernal Captor, you grave flicker it, and then you just get to like gain a creature and then you plunder it away. Like I could see a lot of like really nice value plays with this. Yeah, if you play this, you're probably playing those too. All right. I can't believe it. We are on to green. We're on to green. And for green, I mean, I had Eternal Witness on my bingo sheet for common. Evolution Witness is not the same, but it's pretty damn good. This is pushed. It's not broken, it's pushed. 3 mana, 2/1, Elf, Shaman, Mutant. The Shaman Mutant part doesn't matter at all. 2 mana to adapt to. That's really cheap. First of all, that activated cost, it feels like it could have easily been 3 mana, but it's not. And this is whenever... What? I can't believe this card exists. These repeat value engines fuck so hard. They're so cool. They're so strong. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on it, we're going to return a card from our graveyard to your hand, and you're damn right this thing is staple. I think that this is going to be... You're going to be really hard-pressed to find green decks that don't want this, because it gets back so many things. It gets back lands, it gets back enchantments, it gets back auras, it gets back creatures, artifacts, like all of it. Yeah, and then there's just tons of ways to retrigger this. The fact that it's an elf too means that we can tutor for it with Wirewood Herald. What's up, Ryan? Good to see you, man. Ooh, Ryan, you're gonna love this, dude. You're gonna love this. We're gonna be talking about some Honest Rutstein. You checked in at the exact right moment. Dude, your timing, bro. Evolution Witness and Honest Rutstein is pretty interesting. Okay, so we're gonna get lost in the sauce here. So join me for a moment on this wild adventure into Golgari combo. Do you see it? Do you see it? So the way it works is that Mere Scrappling is 0 mana because of Honest Rutstein. So you cast it, sacrifice it, target the Evolution Witness. Counter goes on Evolution Witness, target the Mere Scrappling, get it back to your hand, cast it, Falconwrath Noble goes and kills him. Fairly compact, I will mention. Yeah, it's like a common walking ballista. Yeah, if you squint hard enough and you like turn your head to the side, you're like, yeah, I kind of see like a colorless XX creature there that makes counters. The beauty of this too is that Honest Rutstein gets back all the parts of this combo when he dies. So one of the things you can do with Honest Rutstein, and one of the reasons I really like the commander, is you can always just like Fleshbag Marauder or plunder away the Honest Rutstein and to get another card back, because it's drawing you a card, it's getting the best thing out of your graveyard. So when you're playing Honest Rutstein, it's like, I kind of like my best cards in the graveyard. Like Gary, I'm looking for any way I can, always, to put that card in the graveyard from play, and then sack the Honest Rutstein to replay the Honest Rutstein to get the Gary back, right? And that's pretty spicy. But my friends, it goes much deeper than that. Okay, we're about to go down the rabbit hole. Put your snorkel on, folks. We're going into the depths. We got Disciple of the Vault because that mere scrappling is an artifact. So when it goes into the battle, off the battlefield, they lose 1 life. Okay. But there's more. Introducing you to Essence Warden, of course. Essence Warden and Social Climber gain us infinite life. 10 billion life, right? So we don't win the game on the spot, but might be kind of hard to kill us when we have that much life. It goes deeper. We also have Iron Apprentice. Iron Apprentice is kind of the same thing as the Mere Scrappling, except that we don't have a sacrifice outlet on it. So we need to add another part to the combo because we need a way to repeatedly make this die. We need a way to sacrifice this diligent little buddy and his friend Sparring Construct so that we can put counters on the Evolution Witness. So now we have the Evolution Witness, our commander, the fodder, the payoff, and the sack outlet. And if you're starting to see the red string going across the wall and the crazed man with the cigarette in his mouth, like that's where we're going, folks. Viscera Seer, Carrion Feeder, you know, and here it is. I mean, this is the sauce, guys. This is how you win in cPDH. Golgari stonks. It's all you need to win a game is just like, you know, one of, you know, of five different cards, right? One of which is in the command zone. And literally none of these are tutorable except for the Evolution Witness. But the Evolution Witness is tutorable with with the Wirewood Herald, which is only 1 mana. The Evolution Witness is only 2 mana, right? It's pretty spicy. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if that's what I'd be doing with Honest Rutstein. I think the coolest thing to do with Honest Rutstein is to play Bayou Groff, Mockrit Behemoth. I want big fucking creatures. I want Annoyed Altasaur. Big, stompy, Timmy shit. I'm here to break people's face with these dinosaurs and owl bears and shit. I think that's way more Chad. But like we're here, we got to talk about it, right? There's more. Ivy Lane Denizen is just like so broken with this. This is a reason if you're doing mono green to just, if you're playing Evolution Witness because it's just a good card, then you're also just going to play Ivy Lane Denizen too. Like some mono green deck, you play the Ivy Lane Denizen because it's good, you play the Evolution Witness because it's good, and then you play both of them. And if you get both of them, you are going to go ballistic. You're going to draw so many cards out of your graveyard. Whatever died, it's all coming back. Any fetch lands, they're coming back. It's a powerful engine, and I really, really, really like that WotC is giving us these repeat value engines at common. They're very cool. There's more. Some cards we've already covered, but just in green, we also have Predatory Hunger. Oh god, this is so spicy. Yeah, oh, Mere Kinsmith, you're right. Mere Kinsmith, very good point, Langner. Yeah. Oh. I like that. I like that a lot. You know, and it's interesting too, Langner, I wonder, you know, there's another way we could add to that combo. All right, let's go back. Hold on one sec. Go back to here. There's other stuff we can do here too, okay? If you have Ashnod's Altar and you have the Sparring Construct or the Iron Apprentice, then you just make infinite colorless, right? I wonder how you would do this with a Perilous Mirror. Because Perilous Mirror is a mirror. You can tutor with Mere Kinsmith. It's only 1 mana with Honest Rutstein in play. That one might be a little too far down the rabbit hole, but Ashnod's Altar obviously does some cool stuff here. If you have Ashnod's Altar, there's other things that happen as well, because you get an infinitely large Evolution Witness, right? So you can just kill somebody. Yeah, so get out the red string, exactly, yeah. Okay, but back to the rest of the spaghetti shit here. We also have Sadistic Glee. Sadistic Glee with Evolution Witness is great because it's going to immediately get itself out of Crypt Rats and Pestilence range. But literally imagine this. Like, just think about the possibilities, guys. Imagine you have your 4/3 Evolution Witness. You play a Pestilence with your Sadistic Glee on Evolution Witness. You pop it for 1. Bunch of stuff dies. You get all these triggers. You pop it again, and some other stuff dies, and then things that are in your graveyard, maybe even things that you just killed, are then targetable with the Evolution Witness. And all those individual counters are going to bring those creatures back, which means we can easily sweep our own board with a bunch of Llanowar Elves in play and get all of them back while making a fucking huge witness. You clear all the blockers out of the way. You probably kill somebody in combat, like on the spot. This is gross. This is very gross. It also works with Eternal Thirst, and now the Evolution Witness has lifelink. Couldn't possibly be anything broken about this, right? We don't have enough red string to make it down the rabbit hole. Yeah, we're like trying to get to the bottom and we can't see it, and we're like hanging on to the last 3 feet of red string. There's also more, and that is that Evolution Witness is exceptionally good with Temur Sabertooth. Temur Sabertooth is a deck that was pioneered by a really fabulous deck builder named Brewbear. And Brewbear is a friend of mine. He lives in the same town as me. And I've played against this a lot. His rogue, mono green, mid-range combo deck, there are combos in it, is really, really good. It's a cool deck. It's the kind of deck that's very hard to kill. It's almost like Teshar, but mid-range. It doesn't close the game out very fast, admittedly. But it is a very spicy deck. Very hard to understand exactly what's going on and hard to interact with the commander because it gains indestructible. But the way that we do this is not by flickering the Evolution Witness, though we could, but it's picking up the Bond Beetle over and over and over again and just putting counters on stuff and just getting everything back. This is like you play the Bond Beetle, get a card back from your graveyard, pay 2 with the Temur Sabertooth, bring it back, granting indestructible to Temur Sabertooth, replay it, and now for 3 mana, or 4 mana, we've drawn 2 cards. Can I imagine Temur Sabertooth becoming a common one day? Didn't think Priest would ever make it to an uncommon, so anything is possible. Yeah, I could see Temur Sabertooth being a common. I mean, it's pretty strong, but it's also expensive. It's 3 toughness. It dies to Bolt. It dies to Galvanic Blast. It dies to, stuff. You have to resolve it and then have mana to use the activated ability. I mean, if they brought it to common, I would not be that surprised. But this is just pure filth. You just so much, and it's not just Bond Beetle. There's a lot of other cards in that deck that actually put counters on things. So yeah, it's just good. And this kind of a thing could make Temur Sabertooth able to play more cards like Krosan Tusker, for example. Evolution Witness makes Krosan Tusker look really good. There's a new Tusky boy in town that we're going to talk about later on that would do that. Oh yeah, Evolution Sage Witness goes in Kutzil 1,000%. It doesn't have evasion, which is definitely a big deal because really Kutzil wants cheap flyers, so you can punch at people because you need to get the combat damage. But it's just a good green card that has counters on it that gets kind of big and recovers your creatures or your auras. Yeah, absolutely. So the thing that we need to keep in mind, though, about this card is that we don't need to be super wrinkle brain about this. We can smooth our brains out a little bit, okay? Just smooth all the wrinkles out, okay? We don't need to be thinking too hard about it. Put the big brain in the box and then shine it off with a Zamboni. We just take a little bit of soap and smooth it off. Because this card is just good. We don't need to bend over backwards in some fucking shoestring combo where we're we take this, put all this stuff, then it does all this stuff. It's crazy. It's no, this is just a generically good card. That's why I put it in staples, because it just goes in green decks. It just goes in all of them. At the very least, it's 3 mana for a 2/1 that you pay 2 mana to make into a 4/3 that drew you a card out of your graveyard. And green was looking for card advantage anyway, so this is fabulous. Yeah. Also noteworthy, I will mention. I need to look up a card really, really quick. One sec. Recommission. Does this work with this card? No. It does not. This card does not work with recommission because recommission says it enters with the +1/+1 counter on it. It's not getting a counter on it like when it's like entering play with it, right? Yeah, it's kind of a weird specific thing. But you know what it does work with is Return Triumphant. Return Triumphant goes hard as hell with Evolution Witness because it puts a young hero roll on it, and then you're going to get multiple triggers off of it if you can attack over and over again. So that's a card that I would 100% play in Kutzil. Same with Recommission. So again, there's just overlap here, right, between all these cards. This is really good for Kutzil. I really like this for Kutzil. Especially if you had like that Mandibular Kite and you can just give it flying or put a Rancor on it. Yeah, I like it. So yeah, don't think too hard about it. Like this card just goes in a lot of different places, right? It is good. Play it everywhere. A permanent card. Oh, wait a second. Does this also just go in Gretchen? It just gets freed from the reel back. Oh, dude, wait a second. Hold on. So this actually goes even deeper. I know we've just spent like 35 slides talking about this card, but this works with the Vigean Graft Mage combo lines. Wow. You can play Evolution Witness, graft onto it. It immediately gets a card back from your graveyard, which could be a freed from the reel or an untapper. Crazy. Yeah, the sky's the limit. There's going to be more combos with this card. I just want to make that clear. Like this, the stuff that we've covered, even though it was like a lot of slides, it's just not all of it. Ryan says Duskshell Crawler is pretty cool with E-Witness 2.0. Gives trample and something from the grave right away. Yeah, totally. Duskshell Crawler. There's also Pride Malkin. There's a bunch of other white ones that have stuff like that too. This is also good with Supply Runner. This is also really, oh god, Silver Flame Ritual for Wrath and Ruin. There's the 4-mana one, I think, that just puts a +1/+1 counter, like no extra stuff on it. That's so good because like you're not only like making this thing huge over time, but you're just drawing cards. It's just very good. This goes in Conclave Mentor too. The green and black, yeah. Well, I mean, the green and black stuff is like pretty fucked up. Like Evolution Witness in a deck that actually operates out of its graveyard quite frequently is really, really good. Oh god, this card gets back Pestilence, dude. What? Dude, this card is such cancer. Oh my god. This gets back all of our Edict creatures. This gets back Chain Devil, Fleshbag Marauder, Tithing Blade, Cranial Plating, Pestilence, Oubliette. Yeah, Ryan Oubliette, we were on the same wavelength there. This gets back so much good stuff. Vicious Battle Rager, Underdark Explorer, Avenging Hunter, Entourage of Trest, Staunch Throne Guard, Scurrilous Sentry, Thorn of the Black Rose, Gary. Dude, honestly, this set is making like Golgari look really fucking good. Like, I think it's time for our Golgari hero to shine. I think Honest Rutstein is genuinely one of the best Golgari commanders we've ever gotten. Yeah, Lignify. Yeah, Lignify also. Trying to think of other like novel stuff. If somebody blew up your Night Soil, you could get it back. I don't know. It's just sick. I love it. So yeah, good card, good. Play the good card. Honorable mentions. Let's get on to these. This is going to be the last part of the commons section, and then we'll move on to the uncommons. Another adapt card that is easy, way easier to combo with. Okay, this is a 2-card combo, the first that we've had in the format. Well, I guess 3-card if you want, like, you need a payoff for it. But Basking Brood Scale here is 2 mana for a 2/2 Eldrazi Lizard. It's devoid. You can have Adapt 1, and whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on it, you make a 0/1 Eldrazi Spawn token. And it's tutorable with Shred Memory. With Sadistic Glee, which looks at all creatures in play, you play Sadistic Glee on the Basking Brood Scale, sacrifice the Eldrazi Spawn token. Something died, you put a counter on the Brood Scale, and you just go burr. It just go burr. This one, all we need is a Falkenrath Noble. Falkenrath Noble, Mirkwood Bats, or Nadir's Nightblade are all payoffs because it's a token that we're sacrificing. So that's actually pretty sick. Now we have Dimir Houseguard can get the Falkenrath Noble. I forgot as well, by the way, when we were talking about the previous combo lines, Dimir Houseguard is great in those because it's also a sack outlet. So if we already have our 4 mana thing, like our Falkenrath Noble or Mirkwood Bats or whatever it is, then we can play it, and it's our carrion feeder, basically. Okay, next one. Malevolent Rumble. And these ones don't have as many slides because honestly I got like... it's always like a learning process when I'm doing these presentations because I'm always trying to get it to be really clear, to be really pretty looking, for there to be some movement in it and stuff, and I'm constantly learning. I'm pretty like master level with Canva, but there's so many new tools all the time that I'm constantly learning stuff. So for these ones, I got kind of tired because I've already made a lot of slides, and I don't have a whole lot of slides for them. So we're just going to talk about the card, and I'll point to the things like this, like a plebe. 2 mana, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Reveal, you may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard. Create a 0/1 colorless spawn token. This card is very, very good. Okay, like really, really good. This is going to be great in Witherbloom Apprentice. This is literally, if you look, tilt your head to the side, close one eye, pat yourself on the head, and pinch your buttocks, and it starts to look like Satyr Wayfinder. No, what is it? Satyr. It's a 2 mana one that mills 4 and you get a land back. But this is different. This gets permanents. This gets creatures, lands, auras, enchantments, artifacts, all of it. This is like the best self-mill card we've ever gotten, right? Because it's actually card draw. This is like strategic planning, but way better because it's on a body. This is the thing. It's like a Dusk Legion Zealot that instead of being a 2 mana 1/1 that draws you a card and loses you life, this is a 2 mana 0/1 that you can sack for mana that digs 4 deep and draws you a card. This makes Augur of Bolas look fucking embarrassing. This is so good. This is so pushed. So pushed. I mean, the creature sacrifices itself. It's like a draw spell that's also card selection, on a body. If you look at it right, this is just a creature spell. It's just a creature spell. It's a creature draw spell. This is great in Old Man Willow. This is great in Skyfisher Spooter. I love this card. Love this. This is going to be very, very busted in 60 card in the Tortex decks. Very busted. Permanent card. It finds Tortex. Ugh, God. Egads. Yeah, very strong. Very strong. Next one is Nyxborn Hydra. I really, 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 really like this card. This is going to be an all-star in Satyr Enchanter. X and a green for a 0/1 Hydra. This is like one of the first Hydras we've gotten at common. Is it the first Hydra we've gotten at common? Type Hydra, other than like Changeling Outcast, rarity common. Yeah, dude. This is the first common rarity Hydra that wasn't from an unset. Very cool. and it's good. You know, reach and trample. You're paying like 1 mana extra, so it's like a little bit below the curve. This plays an Honest Rutstein as well. This is great in Satyr Enchanter because it's like both reach and trample. It's like the bestow cost isn't that bad. It's only one more. It's not like the bestow cost where it's like 4 or 6 mana and you're just like, I'm never ever casting this as anything other than the creature. Like Hopeful Eidolon or something. This one here is only one more mana to bestow, which is appropriate. It shouldn't be a crazy amount of mana. Trample and reach is a big deal. Satyr Enchanter kind of has the problem of like, it has big threats built into the deck, but they don't have evasion. You have to be able to grant them evasion, and Trample is perfect for that. You slap this Nyxborn Hydra on a creature, you don't even need to pay, you can just pay 0, or just 2 green, and bestow it on something to give it trample. Like, if you give this to an Aura Gnarlid, it doesn't matter if whether you paid mana for X into it or not. It is going to kill somebody. You put this on a Slumbering Keep Guard, a Yavimaya Enchantress, a Aura Gnarlid, or you know, something with All That Glitters, or Ancestral Mask, right? This is really, really good for that deck. 2 mana cantrip that gives something trample and reach, and if you want, you can sink a shitload of mana into it, and just, this is very good. I love this. And you can also just play it. Look at this. This is a 1 mana 0/1 that draws a card. I hadn't even thought of that until just now. Yeah, it's just a 1 mana cantrip on a body. It's crazy, man. I love this card. Next one is Horrific Assault. Oh, did he? Oh, wait a second. Oh, you can't tutor for this. Yeah, but I could see Hive Cryptid playing this in Wilson. Yeah, seems like a great Wilson card. 21? Did he made his Wilson 21 power, but he didn't cast this for 22 mana, did he? How is that even possible? You have like a Priest of Titania with like Elvish Guidance in play and like an untapper? Anyways, I'll let you figure that out for me. A casual, oh, it was a casual pod. Okay, this starts to make more sense. He cast it for 14 onto a 6/6. That's very Chad. Horrific Assault is the next one. 1 mana sorcery, which is not a good start, but hear me out. Target creature deals damage. You control deals damage to another creature you don't control. This is a 1 mana sorcery speed bite spell. It's the first of its kind at common. The fact that it's sorcery speed hurts it, but the fact that it's 1 mana is really good. And I actually think, yeah, the art on this is fabulous. That's really cool. With shifting forms and no angel to pray to, Innistrاد's werewolves were especially susceptible to Emrakul's influence. I actually think this is kind of maybe even a staple green spell. For mono green decks that don't have good access to removal for creatures, this is a godsend. It doesn't matter that it's sorcery speed, because when you're in mono green, you're trying to get every removal spell you can that isn't shit. And this is not shit. It's okay to play sorcery speed removal sometimes. If you have like 10 removal spells and one of them is sorcery speed, totally okay. It's not going to bite you in the ass that much. And look, if you needed to cast it, I cast instant speed removal at sorcery speed all the time, because if you think about it, if I'm say I'm first in player order, and there's 2 other players and then a combo player, or 1 other player and then a combo player, so ahead of me, so it's like me, say I'm playing mid range, and then there's a non-combo player or a combo player, and then a combo player, and there's a combo threat in play on that 3rd person or that 4th person. I'm casting it at sorcery speed so that they have to deal with it if mine doesn't work. We still have time to do with it, right? It pushes the buck onto them. If they counter that spell and it doesn't work, then this person's got to find an answer to it, which is good. Whereas with instant speed, you're kind of like trying to get them, you know, but there's the risk that it just doesn't work at all and you just die. And Horrific Assault is totally fine. The Eldrazi clause is like going to come up like 1 in 50 games maybe, but you know, it's a thing that could happen. It's the second one we've gotten, actually. We have the hard-hitting question from MKM. Really? Huh. Oh. Oh, that's an uncommon, though. Yeah, but you're right. No, we do have other... I bet there are other 1 mana bite spells at uncommon though too, right? Or maybe not. So if we did O-tag bite, rarity, uncommon, MV equal less or equals 1, it might not get all of them. Yeah, there's Chainweb, Arachnir, Arachnir. Then there's also, there might be some ones that are like discounted as well. Yeah, like this kills Prey Upon. You just don't play that anymore. Unless you're Gnarlback Rhino. But I think the point being here, Spideroy, is that this is unique, right? Like it's very cheap for a removal spell. You can kind of look at like Bone Shards or something like that, but like less risky and less resource intensive. So I think this card is actually closer to staple for mono green decks that struggle with removal than we'd probably like to think, because people see sorcery speed and they're like, oh, I would never. But when you're staring at the fact that you only have so many 2-mana instant speed bite spells, yeah, I mean, you got to reach for it. You got Lignify and maybe like Arachneus Web or something like that. But Horrific Assault's very cheap, very high tempo. So just cast it at sorcery speed. It's okay. Nightshade Dryad, 2-mana, 1/2 Death Touch, makes colorless mana and makes colored mana. It's Dryad. Mana Dork with Death Touch, pretty darn cool, I think. You know, the fact that it's a 2-mana Mana Dork is a little funky, because so where this would fit in is if you are casting a 4-mana commander, because a 4-mana commander doesn't really care whether you cast your ramp on 1 or on 2, because then it's castable on 3. So Death Touch is good, makes mana of any color, which is great. It's a shame it's on an elf, because then I would get to play it in Aethersworn, Sphinx of the Guild Pact, my 5-color elves deck. That would be a really cool include in there. I don't know exactly where this goes. Finn the Fangbearer, sure. What's up, Collector Invest? Good to see you. Yeah, I wish, maybe someday Finn the Fangbearer has enough support to make it work. The problem with Finn the Fangbearer primarily is just that kind of like Rasad, your whole strategy revolves around this one creature that if you take it away, you erase all the progress sort of you've done. Or you erase that damage that turn. Like if you kill Rasad, for example, you just do 0 damage and now you're tapped out, which sucks. So there is that, but yeah, not to get distracted onto the Finn thing. Finn the Fangbearer gets better and better. Yeah, it is Finn Stonks for sure. And it's it's ramp, which is good. Great for partners and background of 2-color Pauper commanders. Yeah, that could be true as well. Welcome to the stream here, Shannon. I don't think I've seen you before. Glad to see you here. Yeah, and it fixes your mana. It also makes colorless, which is kind of like weird. I don't know exactly how often that's going to be relevant. Probably not most of the time. We'll just make some color, right? But yeah, Death Touch is great. I mean, because it's just, it means that your ramp spell is also then killing a creature eventually, unless it gets swept up by something else. Next one is Temperamental Oozewag. It's a hell of a name. I don't like this art, I gotta say. Pete Venters here, art is subjective, but this is hideous. Um, yeah, it is for draft support. It's for all the Eldrazi stuff. 4 mana, 4/4 with adapt 2. That instantly puts it into potential Goreclaw territory. Adapt 2, so we can make him to a 6/6, which means he's tacking for 7 trample. Yeah, the eyes. Bird Bash says, I love him. That thing will scare kids across the room in foil. It'll blind people. Yeah, it is the eyes. I I don't like it. I don't like its face. I don't like its eyes. I don't like that it's like some weird ooze thing. Its legs look like a dinosaur, but like not a cool one. I don't know. I think it looks kind of cheesy. It's like it's a little bit like old magic art, but not in a good way. Like I love some of the old magic art, and some of it I can appreciate it for just being kind of silly, like that sort of '90s fantasy vibe, or like '80s fantasy vibe. But yeah, I just think this card looks like shit. The water doesn't. I don't know. Yeah, it's like the head is really humanoid while also being like a rabbit or something. The eyes are too humanoid. So the eyes are too humanoid. It's like human eyes on a rabbit head with rabbit teeth, or maybe like a rodent teeth. But then the arms are like they look like rhinoceros skin or something like that. They're like wrinkled and tough and like, but the head is furry. And then the body is like whatever the fuck that is. I don't know. It is uncanny. This is the uncanny valley, and I don't like it. David Bowie behind all this fur. Fuck. I wish I didn't have that image in my head. I don't really like any of the. I know people probably hate me here, saying this, but I don't really like David Bowie's like a lot of the stuff that he played in. It was just too fucking weird and like strange. It's just like very non sequitur type stuff. Like Dark Crystal, I do not like the Dark Crystal. That's probably why I don't like this. Is I don't like the vibe of the Dark Crystal. It's creepy and weird in like a way that isn't nice. I don't know. Modified creatures you control have trample though. Okay, so anything with an aura, equipment, counters. I don't exactly know where that goes outside of Goreclaw, because otherwise it's just like a big chonky creature. Oh, you know what? This is great in Kutzil. Yeah, this is really good in Kutzil. Like very good. So you go turn 1, 1/1, turn 2, 2 1/1s, turn 3 Kutzil, smash, draw 1 or 2 cards, right? Turn 4 Temperamental Oozewag. And fair point, Dragon. I get that it's the point, but I don't have to like it. But yeah, Temperamental Oozewag is cool because there are some creatures that get counters on them in Goreclaw. This might incentivize us to play a few more. There's the Explorer creature, the Raptor, Exploratory Raptor or whatever it is. And this would give it trample, which is relevant because when Goreclaw dies, it's nice to have another form of trample in play. Going to have to call it the Creepy Chapet? Oh, Chiapet. Oh. Oh god, it just step by step becomes more and more cursed. That's gross. I don't actually know what language this is here. I'm gonna translate this really quick. Is that Japanese? No, it's Korean. I think that's Korean. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody in chat can help me translate this comment here, because I don't actually. Oh, actually, here I might have a way to do it. Translate English. Astrograph, nice. Oh, I see. That's the name of the person is Astrograph. Cool. Astrograph, welcome to the chat and welcome to the stream here. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention here is Warped Tusker, and I want to give a shout out to my boy Makoto here from my favorite movie in the world, which is Princess Mononoke, uh, and you know, R.I.P. baby, R.I.P. for Makoto. Lord Makoto went down a hero and a champ, and Warped Tusker here is basically like Makoto, right? Like, is this not like a clear homage to Makoto? Like, he doesn't look good, right? Like, things have gone wrong. But damn, he looks cool. Uh, and this card is cool. It's 7 mana for a 7/8 with reach. When we cast or cycle, we're going to make a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn token, and we're going to draw a card. And what I really like about this is that this is actually kind of getting back to the, yeah, sick design, Jared. Absolutely. Like, super sick, because this is a Phyrexian Rager, except it comes on a small body. It's a 0/1 body. But like the floor is still pretty high. It's an uncounterable instant speed creature that draws us a card and makes mana, right? And then when we cast it, we're getting 2 of them. So if our opponent casts an Edict, they can't really get the Tusker. If we just cast this, for example, the fact that it doesn't have Trample is a bummer. I would prefer that WotC would stop putting Reach on creatures only, because Reach is significantly worse than a lot of other keywords out there. Trample, much, much better. Menace, much, much better. I think Reach is just not great. It's fine, but like, you can't put Reach and Flying next to each other. They're just not the same, you know. Like, and so I kind of wish that this had Trample, but you know, because for 7 mana, this needs to be able to actually punch people. Collector Invest says, I ate 30 Crunch Wraps from Taco Bell today. That's fucking savage, dude. That sounds delicious. I'm hungry just hearing that right now. Alex says, Sub Cutie, I'd have joined earlier, but I found a kitten in my driveway. Oh, do you have a new pet? What are you going to call it? Mouser? Best day ever. Bring back the banding. Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I like this. This is a cool card. You get value at every step of the chain. This works great with Tortured Existence. Cards like this rock. I love Krosan Tusker. And I think in green decks, you really need this kind of card draw, right? So definitely love that. And I love the homage. I feel like, am I wrong? Like, am I wrong that they were like inspired by Princess Mononoke here? Right? Like, just look at this glorious Chad pig, this boar right here. His name is Munch because he bit my finger and I picked him up, trying to see if someone's missing him. Might be a new pet. IDK yet. Ah, I see. We'll be waiting with bated breath. All right, on to the uncommons, my friends. We've made it. I wish I had a moment to translate this here. I don't want to hold things up too much, but I kind of want to translate these comments because I want to make sure I'm getting translate to English. Hello. Well, hello to you too. Nope, wasn't able to get that one. And then this one here. These are different symbols. Interesting. Yeah, I can't translate it, so it is what it is. On to the uncommons. All right, here it is. This is behold, our new colorless overlord, breaker of creation. First of all, that fucking name goes hard. That is metal as hell, dude. This right here is a category 5 kaiju threat. Okay. The Pacific Rim boys are gonna have their work cut out because this thing stomps. 8 mana, 8/4. When you cast this spell, gain 1 life for each colorless permanent you control. I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. Starting out the game at 40 life is really, really, really good. Okay, and the fact is, if somebody casts like an Edict, and we think our life total is in danger, we make so much mana in this deck that you can just sacrifice it and recast it again. And when you cast it again, you're going to gain like 16 life or more. Hexproof from each color means that we don't have to worry about protecting this thing at all. We just need ramp and evasion. That's it. Annihilator is so sick. It's so metal. And this two-shots people. It's an 8-power creature. Give it flying, hit people twice, or put a brass knuckles on it and hit somebody once. In which case the Annihilator doesn't really matter. but yeah, this is a very cool card. Is it top of the meta at any point in time? Probably not. Is this a rogue deck that you could 1,000% catch people off guard with? Definitely. The Edict meta will be hard on this deck, but it's also just going to mean that we're going to have like just insane amounts of life, right? Because every time you cast it, you've got more permanents in play, including your lands, which are colorless, right? So, and here's, we're going to be doing a video on this one at some point here. And this is a sneak peek. 33 ramp spells. We want basically everything that's 2 mana and below, because we want to run right up to this thing. We want to get it out on turn 4 or turn 5 and just go crazy. Birdbath says, there's no way a better colorless commander. I don't remember the name. Maybe you show it here. Yep. There is another colorless commander, and it's kind of crazy that we got 2 of them in a row, like right after Patchwork Automaton like won a tournament in Philadelphia. These decks do, in my mind, make Patchwork Automaton like not really a choice anymore, because these 2 commanders are so powerful. Like Breaker of Creation being just like a 2-shot kill. It's like, yeah, you could cast a lot of cheap spells and run out of cards and have a commander that can still be killed and then be out of cards, or you can cast Breaker of Creation, Chad, class 5 kaiju threat, and just 2-shot people. You don't worry at all about how big it is. You don't need any of that. You just need flying. Maybe you make it a little bit bigger with like a Captivated Cave or something and like a Haunted Cloak, and you just smash people, dude. I think this is great. So yeah, Patchwork Automaton maybe a little bit dead with this one. I mean, they're different in a sense. Like Patchwork Automaton doesn't run ramp, but then if you're not running ramp, what are you running? Like you get some like the janky removal spells, which we play in this one too. But genuinely, you're gonna run out of like artifacts that you actually want to cast at a certain point. Whereas in this deck, it's like we don't have that problem because we need to run probably 30 mana rocks to make this happen. Next one, and this shit is pretty cracked. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This commander is some shit. 3 mana for Glaring Fleshraker. Eldrazi Drone. Whenever you cast a spell, create an Eldrazi Spawn token, 0/1, and whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield, you do 1 damage to each opponent. I've had a brainworm, and it's this commander. And I've been working on it with a lot of people. You can look it up if you're not in the server yet. Join the Discord server. You can look up in the deck list section. You can look it up, and we've got a very, very active thread for this card, because this card goes hard as fuck. I can pretty consistently push 8. Okay, if nobody interacted with me, it is really not uncommon to put 18 damage on each player by the end of turn 4 or 5 with this commander, because of the way that you just cast spells that become free. This card also reads every colorless spell you cast costs 1 less to cast, right? Oh, awesome, Birdbath. Yeah, glad you found it. Thanks for asking. Yeah, welcome to the server. This card is crazy. This is TPI for 3 mana, but it's also Impact Tremors. Impact Tremors meet TPI, colorless deck. If this had any color to it at all, it would just be really, really insane. But this card is super, super, super strong. Its weakness is going to be that its removal is like kind of expensive and janky. It's not going to be a catch-all unless you decide to run the really expensive stuff like Urn of Godfire, or you can just run like the Moon Vessel, or what is it, Moon Glove Vessel type stuff, or the silver dart, the ninja's kunai, all these, which, are really unique because they're colorless, which means that protection from colors doesn't work. You can't really counter them because they come down very early. And Alex says, it's the I'm a problem to deal with. I'm the problem, deal with me deck. Yeah, that is one of the things about this that is going to be really interesting to test out is when you put down 15 damage onto the table on turn 3, you are the problem. Okay, or no, sorry, not turn 3, end of turn 4. End of turn 4. Because the way it works is you go, if and it's not hard because you get all these 0 mana cards, and the 0 mana cards push out more and more tokens. So every 0 mana card becomes a Lotus Petal. Paul mentions Lightning Excavator. That card is an all-star in this deck. But yeah, every 0 mana card is a Lotus Petal. So your deck is full of Lotus Petals. And then you have these stupid cards like Golem Foundry and Foundry Inspector that just make the deck go absolutely insane. Maybe before the end of the stream, I'll show you guys what it does a little bit here. Maybe I shouldn't, just to keep it for the next live stream. That might be the way to do it. But this is a real deck. This is a very real commander. And I will not be surprised if it puts up tournament results under myself or somebody else, just because it's just strong. The big question mark in the deck building is going to be how much attention do we get, and from negative attention from the table, and if we get a lot of negative attention, then we actually get to switch up our card pool a little bit to all the creatures that say when they die, you and everybody else draws a card, or you draw 2 and everybody else draws 1. Also, I'll mention this is the only deck really that's the only colorless cPDH deck, or really the only cPDH deck in my opinion that can actually run Howling Golem. It's a good card in this deck. Every creature that you play makes a colorless Eldrazi, which pings them, and then the creature enters play and it pings them. So you can kind of start to do some basic math. Every spell generates blank amount of damage, right? But yeah, DBZ Dragon, this will be fun to play against. I mean, fun as in you're gonna die quick, right? This deck will get absolutely hosed by anything with Extort, because you're not going to have the gas to be able to push through. But yeah, I mean, turn 6, killing the table, if you're not interacted with, definitely on the menu. And you can see the mana curve here. These spells right here are not actually 9 mana. 9 mana is for Hand of Emrakul, which you can actually cast in this deck for, I've cast turn 3 Hand of Emrakul, which is pretty fucking sweet. You can do some stupid stuff. There's sequences with Willforged Golem and the Convoke stuff and Halo Hopper and Improvise and all this other stuff where, yeah, you can go super ham and produce a lot of threats, and then use the threats to produce more threats and more pinging and more damage. And yeah. Shannon says, I might be alone in this for now, but I feel like the uncommon legendary commanders, partners, backgrounds need their own format of Pauper Mander, where tokens are rewarded by type and leaderboards. Interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that. I feel alone in this. I might be alone in this now. Uncommon legendary commanders, partners, and background need their own format. Okay, so let me ask you a clarifying question. Why do you think the uncommon legendary commanders, partners, and backgrounds need their own format? Is it because you think that they are more powerful than the uncommon non-legendary options? Is it a flavor fail? Do you believe it's a flavor fail? Okay, they are abundant, overlooked, and have no home. Uncommon legendary. I think I might be missing something. So when you say abundant and overlooked, there's in cPDH and in Pauper Commander, the background commanders are very popular. The legendary background commanders are very popular. They make up a large part of the top of the meta, like Malcolm Kedis, Malcolm Breaches, Malcolm Rograk, Abdel, Gretchen, Uh, there's a number of other ones, all the different variants of Abdel, Siverus, right? Yeah, yeah, let me know. Um, so I wouldn't say that, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but I'll just answer it the best I can based on the way I understand it. The legendary creatures are not underplayed in Pauper Commander or in cPDH. They see a lot of play. Um, I would say the uncommon commanders also still see a lot of play, but less. And I think part of that is because people sort of have like the commander mind virus of being like, I can only play with legendaries, and it's like Pauper Commander is a format based on rarity, not based on legendary subtype. The legendary subtype has nothing to do with Pauper Commander at all, which is great because it liberates us into this place of being able to run like what is 5.5, 6,000 commander options that we have at our disposal. I have built a ton of decks for this already, and I'm Megastorm on Moxfield. Awesome. Yeah, send me a write up, and maybe I'll take a look at it and see what you have in mind there. I don't think I would ever support anything of like making a new format or a separate format that wasn't just like we have PDC, for example, which is really cool, Pauper Dual Commander, that offers like the same card pool, slightly different ban list, tiny different rule set, but you're ultimately it's kind of like the same thing as like Pauper, PDC, Pauper Commander. You're playing in the same pool of cards for the most part. And I think that's additive. That's good. But if anything about this format, I just think the having maybe like a different name for it. If I was to change anything, I would probably call it like captains or like colonels or something like that, just so that it because it is commander and that it's like multiplayer magic, but commander isn't like multiplayer magic and commander aren't synonymous necessarily, like in a pure, strictly analytical sense, right? It's commander is playing with the commander in your command zone, and then there's a bunch of other stuff around it. Yeah, there's tiny leaders, yeah, but Pauper Commander requires that a person knows what Pauper is and knows what Commander is, which you probably know what Commander is if you're playing Magic, but you know, but they need to know what Pauper is. Chris, welcome. Colorless Pinger. That's right, my friend. So let's see. Okay, so a bunch of comments here. So much room in Pauper to build new things. Absolutely. I call mine tribal rivals for now. Yeah. Yeah. And then, and Chris, welcome. Tiny Leaders was okay, but more fun with Plane Chase and Vanguard added in. Whoa, that sounds kind of buck wild. Okay, I'm going to move on here to a couple more just so we can get this done in a reasonable time. Chris says WotC hated on us by making Snow Ace uncommon. They sure did. It's a damn shame. Not that big of a deal, but you know, it is what it is. Metastatic Evangel. 2 mana, 3/1. I've had people send this to me. I think Derek from the PDHRC sent this to me saying, alert, alert, this looks cool. This looks, worth. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. So this is pretty cool with any creature that... actually, this is really strong. Like 1 mana, Iron Apprentice, Iron Bully, that kind of a thing. Anything that's like a 0/0 that has a +1/+1 counter on it, like Star Pupil, Servant of the Scale, although that's green. Any creature that just has counters, and then it enters and it's going to proliferate. I like this. It's actually, this could go super, super hard. It doesn't work with tokens, unfortunately, Jared. Non-token creature. Oh, but you can proliferate the tokens on the Foundry. Yeah. That's good shit. I like that. This works with energy. Works with poison. Yeah, so we could map this out, right? Like turn 1, Miner's Guidewing. Turn 2, Metastatic Evangel. I really like 2 mana commanders. It's very high tempo, especially a 3-power one because you can start punching people right away if they like are developing. And then turn 3, non-token. So what if we played like Thraben? Well, so we'd probably want to play something that had counters. What would be some... Here, let me look it up. Let's see if we can swap the view here into this. Sure, why not? Maybe I have a Scryfall window capture. Do I have one? Spell table, browser. That's the one we want to use. Okay, so we'll go, one sec, I just need to change this, hit this back over to audience window, and then we'll go over to browser display. And spell table, this is going to go over to hard-hitting questions. Okay, there we go. Awesome. Mono white is tough. Are there any meta commanders for it? Yeah, there's actually a lot of really good, well, I would say there's some good options in mono white. And then there's some that I don't really love, but other people do, so I'll name them as well. For mono white, you have Great Desert Prospector. And Great Desert Prospector is like a big mana white deck, big white sort of deck. You make Power Stone tokens, and then the Power Stone tokens are mana that you can use for activated abilities. So you use like big pump stuff where it puts like +1/+1 in vigilance on your whole team. It can be used for all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I mean, and it's a cool deck. It does flickery stuff. I actually think this one is not something that anybody's playing in cPDH, but I think Wingmantle Chaplain is actually really strong, unironically really strong, and very based. This makes a lot... I mean, the whole game theory here is really simple, or the whole strategy is very simple. We play defender creatures, and we get 1/1 flyers. In some way, you can kind of look at this as like TPI, but different. And the cool thing is that you have all these defenders in play that make it very, very hard to punch us profitably ever. Our commander is like ungated on its sequencing. You can play the defenders out early, or you can play them after, and you're still going to get the 1/1. So it's not one of those commanders where you're like waiting and holding your breath to cast the commander. You just cast it as soon as you can. You cast all your other defenders, and you're going to get a bunch of 1/1s. I mean, Battle Screech is a very good white card, and in cPDH it's no different. Making tons and tons of bodies. If we can flicker it to make more of them. Wingmantle issue is that there's only 30 common defenders. Is that true? I think there might be more, right? I think there's more than that. Let me take a look here. So rarity, common, O, defender, color equals white. Or actually, no, ID is less than or equal to white. 46. So there's more. How many of them we want to play? We might need to just play all of them. Yeah. Which is fine, because all these cards are also, should be 50. Rarity common, O defender, ID is less than or equal to white. Am I missing something? I don't think I am. Is there another clause here? Oh, here, check this out. So no. We could do O defender or type wall. It should be synonymous, yeah. Commander white. I've never used that clause before. Yeah, it's still coming up 46. Yeah. But to your point, Birdbath, I don't know if that's a winning strat. I think it is. The fact is, it's like your interaction is not going to be fabulous, but like, what else do you have to do with your mana? You like play, You play your walls, which make it hard for you to be killed. Your 1/1s build up over time, and they're gonna. I mean, this actually in some ways looks a little bit like Murmuring Mystic. I mean, I know it looks weird to play all the walls, but I will also say that that last glaring Fleshraker deck that I mentioned, that deck plays a lot of really shit cards that are good because they're in that deck, right? It's the context is important. Yeah, Crashing Drawbridge is definitely the best one. Um, and I think that like just making every creature you cast into a 1/1 bird token is really good when you can anthem them, right? You go Kytheon's Tactics, make them all 3 power, vigilance, you know, put +1/+1 counters on them that don't go away. You know, you've got the Soul Sisters plan, which is going to give you a ton of life. Your interaction is going to be one of the hardest things to solve, and that's going to be like, you just got to find the right pieces and you got to play enough of it that you can play a mid-range game. So you play a bunch of flickers, all the walls, some good interaction, and you're done, right? Maybe you might play like, you could still play Battle Screech and Triplicate Spirits for sure. But you get some cool stuff. You get like Cut Short, which is the Convoke kill spell. It's very good with Thraben Charm. I have a hunch about this, and I actually think that this is a video that I hope to do with my girlfriend on stream. I'll bring her on sometime. She plays Magic as well, and she wanted a commander that had an angel in the command zone because she just likes the aesthetic of them. She wanted a nice deck. Okay, so to me that meant like, I mean, this is pretty nice. Just play a bunch of walls. You're like hard to kill, but you can kill people. And she wanted something with pretty art. She wanted pretty art, nice, angel in the command zone. This is not an angel in the command zone, but I was like, just like, it's got wings. It's kind of, it kind of looks like an angel to me, to be quite honest. I mean, so, you know, potato. Other white ones as well. Illuminator Virtuoso. Also a Brewbear special. 2 mana 1/1 double strike. It has Heroic Connive, so when you target it, you connive. And this thing can kill people on turn 3. It can kill people on turn 2 with a Lotus Petal. Yeah, with a Lotus Petal, you can kill people on turn 2. There's Abdel. Abdel White is just like frustratingly not bad. I think Mono White Lulu also probably good. Let me take a quick look here. Actually, we'll go to Mox Field and see what we can see for other options. I know we're off on a little tangent here, but that's what we do here. These are all my up-to-date completed decks. Yeah, not a lot of mono white stuff in my list of up-to-date things, but yeah, Wingmantle Chaplain. Great Desert Prospector. Oh, Phalanx Leader. Yeah, Dragon, you're talking about Great Desert Prospector. Phalanx Leader, though, I think this is the real deal. I've played against this. I played against Ruffigan from the PDHRC when I was in Vegas. And he had like really, really big creatures in play. And they were all flying. I think this is great. Yeah, turn 1, like Miner's Guidewing, Sergovian Angel. Turn 2, Phalanx Leader. Turn 3, you've got 3 mana. Play 2 1/1s, hold up a protection spell. Pass the turn. Protect your commander if you need to. They all get buffed. All the like rebound stuff is really good. Elvin, welcome to the stream. We talking mono white? How about that Loyal Unicorn dough? And now we cooking Loyal Unicorn. Yeah, we are talking about mono white right now. I'm a believer. I think sometimes people are looking at mono white stuff, hoping and wanting it to be good. Unicorn, and it's not. You got it like if it's gonna be mono white, it has got to be a really good effect because mono white is limited. You know, it's hard. Mono white and mono green are very very there's specific build patterns we have to build into and certain build incentives that the colors give us. So, yeah. And you're going to end up having to play some bad cards to just fill slots, right? But increasingly, they're getting better. Mono white is getting better. Mono green is getting better as the card quality goes up. The generic card quality as well as the dynamicism of the cards goes up. It's good. Loyal Unicorn. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, if you control a commander, prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures this turn. Other creatures you control gain vigilance. I don't know if I see it here. I see that it prevents combat damage, so your stuff can attack however you want. They gain vigilance, but really the funny thing about this is that when we're building around like an aggressive white commander, we want to play a lot of cheap creatures and we want them to be evasive. So the fact that they don't take damage doesn't really matter because we're just flying over the top anyways. They're not blocking us. The vigilance is good. The vigilance is good. In fact, it kind of makes me think that this is kind of a better version of Thraben Watcher. Because this is a 3/4 vigilance instead of being a 4 mana 2/2 flying vigilance. Which dies to sweepers. It means if your commander dies, all your other stuff dies. So then when the commander dies to the 2 damage sweeper, then everything else dies. Mono red is getting really good. Need more Bill the Pony. Mono red is getting good. Mono red has been good too. Mono red won a tournament under Loyal, the other Loyal, Loyal Apprentice, under the piloting of Obstinate, also one of the folks in the Common Connoisseurs. And it's all, it's all based on like the red pingers, direct damage burn spells, stuff that sacrifices artifacts and creatures. Big X spells like Fireball, Rolling Thunder, Kavarik's Torch, and then all the creatures that ETB and do damage right away, or do damage when they attack. And it's kind of like it's like red mid range, yeah. Now, do I like red mid range over something like in black? I would prefer black because black, if you were to compare the two, the black deck counters the red deck, because the black deck, the drain comes with life gain, right? So every point that we gain back is like erasing their progress. So they, black ETB drain, black burn kind of stuff is my preference, but this is still a very reasonable deck. Yeah. Especially like a lot of the red removal, it just works. And it also goes face. So what you get for red instead of black is you're going to get more closing power. Shannon says, good for flying army commander with first strike. Flying army commander with first strike. Can you tell me what commander you're thinking of with that? And then Birdbath says, mono white has a sick rebel package, good against black and red decks. I would say it has a rebel package. I don't know if I'd call it sick, though. There are some good cards here, for sure. The ones I want to point out are Bound in Silence. This is not a good card, but the way that we use it is very good. Okay, and I'll show you how that works. Search for a rebel permanent card. Search for a rebel card. Put it into the battlefield. So when you put an aura into the battlefield, it doesn't target. It just goes onto something. So these all have the ability to put a pacifism one time. Put a pacifism on something through Hexproof and Shroud, which is pretty good. All the other rebels, the rebels that are actually good, Bound in Silence is just a thing you can do. Defiant Falcon at the very minimum is still just a 2-mana 1/1 flying, which is fine. Lawbringer and Lightbringer. I think Lawbringer is genuinely good because removing red creatures from the game is very relevant. That means pingers, right? So being able to take a pinger out of play on a permanent is good, and it's exile. Lightbringer, black creatures aren't really the problem. Now, Lightbringer does work against Cabal Paladin and Disciple of the Vault and Basilicus Creature. And the reason that that's important is because sorry, I need to pull this down just a little bit there. Is because Sphinx Summoner. Sphinx Summoner makes infinite mana and then extorts infinite times with Basilicus Creature. And then those players could also be playing Syndicate Enforcer if they wanted to as well. Cabal Paladin is the pinger in black that rewards you for historic spells. And then yeah, so they both have places for sure. And maybe now with Sphinx Summoner in the format more prominently, this Rebel package is a little bit better. And then Leonin Lightbringer, I actually like this card a lot. 3 mana, 3/2 with Ward 2. If it's equipped, it gets +1/+1. This is just a very generically good card, and if you have like Bone Splitters and all the glitters and other stuff in your deck, this is cool. It's definitely a cool card. Still, you know, if we calculated all of this, I don't know if it's enough to really justify a Rebel package, because like you have to weigh these cards against just like any other good card. Because these cards are not good. 1 mana, 1/1 that like puts a 2/2 or a 1/1 into play for 3. I don't know. We gotta get a little real about these cards. I do like Zealot Ilvek. This one is interesting tech against like certain pingers. This is very oppressive towards TPI. It's very hard on a Rakdos Gut deck as well. Every time you attack and it's not blocked and it has shadow, so it won't be blocked, it deals 1 damage to target creature. So it's just like a 1 damage pinger machine for TPI or something. But like that's a very game losing strategy if there's a combo player at the table to just like repeatedly fuck the TPI player, because which we've seen play play out in tournament setting where you take that mid-range control player out of the game and you're taking their interaction out of the game. And if you're a mid-range player, you probably don't want that. You don't want to have the full responsibility of the combo player on your shoulders. So I don't really love that, but yeah, it is unblockable. So yeah, I think most of these cards, they suck very bad, but they are a thing that exists in the format. Yeah. Catching up here, Anafenza looks cool. Yeah, Anafenza does not have teeth, I don't think, but it is cool. If it were a common, that'd be a different story. If the Vigilance was optional, it would be better for Merfolk Schoolmaster. Stony Brook Schoolmaster is what you're talking about. But yeah, Merfolk, we get the point. Loyal Unicorn, I was saying, would be a decent commander for a simple flying army with utility and throw in some cantrips for card draw. Pilgrim of the Ages for lands. Yeah, I agree. That's how I would do it. I don't know if, you know, how this matches up against the rest of the meta. But like mono white weenie aggro, I think is like, it's as good as like, maybe it's just like about the same level as like mono red. It has the same problems, which is that you run out of cards. But one of the ways you can get around that is that if you make creatures that are big enough that they don't die to sweepers, or they just don't die easily in general, that is card advantage. It means your creatures stay in play longer, they do more damage over the course of the game, and then all you have to solve for is just having enough removal and card draw. And you have to play a lot of janky card draw to make a deck like this work. But yeah, I don't hate Loyal Unicorn. I actually didn't know about this card. I had never seen it, so thanks for sharing that. Assembled Ensemble. Oh my god, we've gotten so off topic. Power is equal to the number of robots you control whenever you cast a spell with artifact. That's pretty fun. I love that. What are the top sweepers in cPDH? Not familiar with them, TBH. Yeah, you're asking the right person, because I love the sweepers. I play them. I play a lot of mid-range and control. So let's start in white, because white has sweeper, and it is called Holy Light. It's a 3 mana instant. Non-white creatures get -1/-1 till end of turn. In white, you also have prismatic strands, which doesn't look like a sweeper until you realize that your opponent swings out. They probably have mostly one color. You line up you cast this. If it resolves, you line up your blockers and you one-sided board wipe them. Wing shards is not a common, luckily. Although that would be a very powerful common. Yeah, storm, make people sacrifice attacking creatures. There's also safe passage. That's another one. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and to creatures you control. This is another way to like one-sided board wipe somebody in combat. In blue, we have Fade Away, which is very, very fun to cast. 3 mana for each creature its controller sacrifices a permanent unless they pay 1. So for each creature a player controls, they have to sacrifice a permanent or pay 1. And they can't, there's no tricksy shit. If you have 7 creatures in play, you are going to pay 7 mana or sack 7 permanents or some combination of the two. Fade Away is very good in blue combo decks. Yeah. Very good in like Scholar of the Ages. Any like blue deck that might not have a lot of creatures. Like this is very good in Sailor's Bane. In Sailor's Bane, you don't have very many creatures at all, and this is like a board wipe. Because the way that this deck, the way that this plays out is that if you cast this on turn 3 or 4, when everybody's developing, nobody can afford to sack their lands or their mana rocks. They just sack their creatures because they know that if they lose their mana, they can't win the game. Oh yeah, Paul, Slyn Voda. Yep. Although it's not as in Slyn Voda, it's not as good as it is in other blue decks because in Slyn Voda you actually do have a fair number of creatures. It is like a blue zoo. It's not technically blue zoo, but kind of, yeah. So that's blue, but there's other ones. Downsize, if we're talking about other unique ways to wipe the board, downsize is Overload, 3 mana, -4, -0 to your entire enemy team. Line up your blockers, and just wipe their board. You got to get kind of creative in these colors because we don't have like Cyclonic Rift, right? This is our Cyclonic Rift. Okay. For common, right off the top of my head, the premium ones: Pestilence, Crypt Rats, Evankar's Justice, Arms of Hadar, Drown in Sorrow. There's also like Gangrenous Zombies, Eyeblight Massacre. Then there's the 1 damage ones. A really important one is actually Wail of the Nim. This is one that a lot of people don't know about. If you are in a deck that has a lot of little creatures in it, and you want to play a sweeper to clear out little creatures from your opponent, like if you're a gut player and you need to be able to beat a TPI player, this is what you do. You play this. It regenerates all your creatures, and it kills all of theirs. Right? So it's a protection spell and a sweeper. And so this one I think is really premium at the 1 slot. The -1/-1 stuff is not very good because it doesn't consistently have good targets. It's going to be really, really bad in a lot of cases. Whereas Wail of the Nim is a protection. It's a protection for board wipe, right? Somebody casts a Fiery Cannonade, and you Wail of the Nim, protect all your pirates, protect your gut, protect whatever it is that you're protecting. So this is good for that reason, right? There's another one I'll mention too, because there's things you can do with this. Fester Creep, 2 mana, 0/0 that becomes a 1/1 with a counter. You can pay 2 to remove a counter from it, and all other creatures get -1/-1. And the dream with this card is that you forge onto it with the initiative, or you flip it into play off Throne of the Dead 3. And then it comes into play with 4 +1/+1 counters on it, which basically makes it a Crypt Rats. To build your own Crypt Rats. Otherwise, it only does it once. It's also very good with, well, it's not very good with Sadistic Glee because you have to get something to die. So if you have Sadistic Glee or Eternal Thirst on this and you can make things die and then get the counters on the Fester Creep and then sweep the board, there we go. Then you can do it. In red, we have Fire Cannonade, Breath Weapon, Sulphurous Blast, Swirling Sandstorm, Blood Fire Infusion, Fireball, Rolling Thunder. I think that's most of them. There's one mana stuff like the and the Festivities, but that really, I don't really love those cards. You play them if it's solving a very specific problem that your deck encounters. Like if TPI was a really big problem for you, but like, I don't know, it's like one deck in the format. Those 1 damage sweepers do hit Abdel. That's actually the one other thing I will mention. Yeah. And that is important. That's actually good enough to play them. It hits Abdel, it hits Skeletons from Gut, and it hits TPI tokens. So, yeah. But again, in that case, I'd probably just run a 2 damage sweeper. Those are the red ones and the black ones. In green, we have, oh, what's it called? Shinnin of Life's Roar. Discard Shinnin of Life's Roar. All creatures able to block target creature do so this turn. So this one, if you have a really big creature, you make everybody block that creature and kill them. There's probably some green fogs that prevent all damage done to your creatures only, I imagine. Brunner tokens. Brunner tokens. Brunner tokens. You know, tell me what you're thinking of with that. And then Elvin says, lol, the fact that we have specific commander that we state as it hits X is ridiculous. I almost want to say certain tables, no Abdel decks. Yeah, I mean, Abdel is an incredibly pushed and degenerate commander. And yeah, I mean, flickering is the most broken thing you can do at common. Reusing ETBs is easily the most broken thing you can do at common. And it always has been. Going back to the early days of Pauper with like Drake Flicker combo with Cloud of Fairies, Cloud Post, High Tide, Ghostly Flicker, Ephemerate when it entered the format. It's just nauseating, you know? Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it. Brunner Battlehammer runs tokens to pump off the Spell Mastery. Spell Mastery. Brunner the Battle Mage. Oh, Balmor. Yeah. Yeah. So it could kill Balmor tokens. It could kill like Levon tokens. So like Levon, Cultist of Tiamat. Some versions of that run a lot of like 1/1s. It'd kill the 1/1s. I mean, it would mess up. It would probably mess up Dargo pretty bad. Because all those 1/1s they need is food, and if they go away, then it's hard for them to recast Dargo again. I don't know. It's pretty specific still, because none of these things are like things that you. The only things that you do see a lot of are Abdel. That's the one reason you would run a sweeper that did 1 damage to only your opponent's creatures. That's really it. Like TPI, sure, but like most of the data for TPI in cpdh.guide are my games. There's some other people who do play. Clay plays different builds of TPI, but most of the mid-range stuff is like all mine. So it's like, are you going to encounter it in your local meta? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's definitely a good deck, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I do not like the idea that you have to run like a bad card like that in some cases just to fix like a single deck. I like running good cards to solve good deck problems, but yeah. And Birdbath says Abdel was my first deck because haha Baldur's Gate, and I put it in my friends group, put my friend group off the format for a bit. Yeah, I mean Abdel is very broken commander. Abdel doesn't even need a second color to be very good. I've played against Abdel Green and it was stupid. Abdel Red, Boros Abdel is very Boros, Boros Orzhov and Azorius are all just exceptionally fucked up decks. They're very, very good. And they definitely have me wondering, for sure. Their win rates are also pretty crazy here, actually, if we can take a look here. I wonder if they've normalized it all. Why is this still... Wait. Whale of the Nem. Oh, here, I need to go here. cpdh.guide. There we go. I was in the wrong browser. Statistics. Meta Commander. What about blue or black echoes? We can look at that. I'm not sure what those cards are. Okay, so it's come down a little bit. So Abdel combo here, 41% win rate. I don't think the blue or the black-white Abdel deck has done as well, I'm pretty sure. So we'll go Commander and sort by A. Abdel Black is what we're looking for. Agent of the Iron Throne. So 26.4. That is lower than I would have expected. But Abdel Blue, it's murderous. Deck is really, really good. It's just abusing all the best things that you can do at common in the best colors for it. So, yeah. Combos with a shoestring. Okay, let's get back actually to the presentation. We got so far off track. Holy shit. But I'm enjoying it. I haven't streamed in a while, and I like chatting with you all. So let's go back. So Metastatic Evangel is where we left off. That's how we got into the mono. That's how we got into the mono white track, and then talking about mono white things, and we talked about Abdel and all that stuff. Oh, Echoing Truth and Echoing Decay, 100% staple. Yeah, in my opinion, for multiple reasons. They kill all of the gut tokens, even though gut doesn't see a ton of play right now. It kills all the gut tokens. It kills all goblin tokens, which for Dargo is relevant. They kill all TPI tokens. They kill all Abdel tokens. And Echoing Truth hits everything. So I think they're great. Echoing Decay, even at -2/-2, still kills a lot of creatures. It kills Tormod tokens. Yeah. Kills Kadira tokens. Echoing Truth fucking collapse slime decks. If they don't have a counterspell or protection for it, it's over for them. Super over. Yeah. So I play it whenever you can play them, you should play them. And soon to be Eldrazi tokens. Well, the funny thing is that the Fleshraker doesn't actually have a lot of tokens in play at any given time. You use them up. Not all of them, but you'll only have maybe and they don't attack really, Although you can play Mightstone. I'm playing Mightstone in mine. Give them power. Surprise, motherfucker. So yeah, Metastatic Evangel looks good. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. Arcbound Condor is the real deal. I don't know why I'm kind of bored by this commander. Maybe I'm just building a lot of mono black lately. This is mono black on the mind. I'm just addicted to playing black in Magic. It feels so powerful. Arcbound Condor, though, is no joke. 3/3 flying for 4 with double black pips, artifact creature. When another artifact enters the battlefield, -1/-1. This is really, really good with Nimble Right Schematic, Prized Statue, Deadly Dispute, Fanatical Offering, anything that makes artifacts. Black does artifacts really, really well. The fact that it's modular too means that when it dies, it leaves something behind. We could potentially, there's really no proliferating in black that we want to be doing. No grafting. There are artifact creatures that we could, I think most of the time this dies and the counters don't go on to anything, probably. You could put it onto Staunch Throne Guard. The Transmogrant. Retrofitted Transmogrant. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of like, this is a little bit like Armix, but it flies. And it's got 3 toughness, which is key. So it's a great deck for cranial plating. Mirror Retriever and Workshop. Yep, those cards would probably be playable here. I would say so. Yeah, because this is the kind of deck that... This is definitely a deck that could pull that kind of a thing off, although you don't have any cost reducer outside of... We probably would play Foundry Inspector, now that I think about it. So maybe we would run the Ashnod's Altar combo. I really like Ashnod's Altar actually just as like a fair mana piece too, especially with all these cheap creatures that we can get back from the graveyard, because they just feel very free, and they can give you a little burst of mana. So yeah, Arcbound and Condor looks great. I mean, this I don't know why I don't find it very exciting, because it's good. But I mean, it's just good. Repeat removal in the command zone that doesn't like scale too hard is pretty good. This picks off combo creatures all day, just by casting the spells that we already want to cast in black. So cast it on turn 3, turn 4, untap and start mowing things down. It's also really brutal against TPI. TPI can't let this resolve. Does a good job of clearing Abdel blockers. So yeah. Next one is Grim Servant. There's been a lot of talk about this one too. I know that there's members of the community who are excited about this one. I'm not. This creature is 4 mana, 3/2 Menace, which is good. Menace is nice. And when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card of mana value less than or equal to your devotion to black, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So here's the deal. The reason I'm not flocking to this card is because for the same mana, we can draw a lot more cards. And in black, in my experience, and I build a lot of black decks, a lot of them. It's like my thing, right? Like black is my color in Magic for sure. I would rather draw more cards than get a specific card. The ability to get a specific card is cool. It's not that relevant on turn 4. On turn 4, I would rather draw 3 cards off Sivirus and ping the table for 3. I would rather cast Corpse Augur and draw 2 or 3 cards. I would rather do other things. And the fact is, it also loses you life, which is like not nothing. It's kind of a bummer. It's a bummer that you lose life for this. So, I mean, yeah, you can find Pestilence, but like finding Pestilence on turn 3 or 4 or 5 is a great way to lose yourself the game, because not only did this lose you life to play it, so now you're down on life, but getting early Pestilence online is a really good way to get the whole table to kill you and to make you spend your life on their creatures so that you're slowly dying, right? To force you to use all your mana, to restrict your ability to operate. You don't want Pestilence on turn 3. So the best cards you can tutor for are cards that you don't want to tutor for on turn 4. You don't really want to tutor for the Initiative. You don't really want to tutor for the Monarch. You don't really want to tutor for Pestilence or Crypt Rats. So then what are we doing? What are we tutoring for? Siphon Mind? Well, if that's the case, then we should just cast Sivirus instead and draw 3 cards every turn for the rest of the game. I think Sivirus is a better commander than this. Mono black Sivirus. Okay. Video coming soon. So yeah, Grim Servant, not a bad card. You know, people will build this, but I don't know. Like I build a lot of black decks, and I just don't think this is what I want to be doing. Yeah, you can Grave Flicker it, sure, but you can Grave Flicker Gary. Your card advantage is really good in the 99. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's also based on your devotion. If I were to build this, here's what I'd be doing. I would build it as almost identically to Corpse Augur. I would have a very creature dense deck with a lot of pips, right? And all of the creatures would be drawing me cards or they would be drawing cards when they entered, or they would be draining my opponent's life total. I would play Mass Edicts, Sweepers, Monarch Initiative, all the good value stuff, and and uh, and to be honest, like that strategy that I just listed there is perfectly reasonable. Maybe what you say with Grim Servant, maybe the read on Grim Servant is that it's not a turn 4 play. Maybe you just play good mono black, like mono black good stuff till the cows come home. And then when you have a problem you need to solve, you can cast the Grim Servant, search up any card in your deck. You're definitely going to have Devotion equals 4 minimum. And so you can search up any good black card, right? And so this solves problems. When people attack you, you block with it and you're able to recast it and tutor another card. But I just like, generally speaking, silver bullets like are not as good, in my opinion, than just drawing more cards. So I would rather draw more cards. I would rather, I think, play Severus and just draw like 9 cards over the course of 3 turns, instead of getting one good card and then having to bend over backwards to like, to like Grave Flicker this or something. And then Corpse Augur. Just look at Corpse Augur. Corpse Augur, I've had games where when I play Corpse Augur and I can make it die, there's somebody in play who has 10 creatures in the graveyard and I cannot actually draw the 10 cards because I'll kill myself. Like, that's the kind of card advantage I'd prefer to have over just getting one card. Collector Invest, can you put it on an opponent's field? What do you mean? And Birdbath says, I think Armix is better than the last one. I think they're different. Yeah, I mean, Armix has to attack, and that's very hard. Battlefields are super, super clogged these days. This thing here can attack, and it's not reliant on attacking. We just have to play artifacts, which is good. I love Armix, but Armix needs flying like a motherfucker. It desperately needs flying, or unblockability, or like Aqueous Form. My favorite build of Armix is with SUR. Robot Chicken, Birdbot. It's very fun. And it has flying. Yep. Can you put it on the opponent's field? Collector Invest, could you clarify what you mean? Could you put this into their opponent's field? I'm going to move on and let me know what you think. Marionette Apprentice. This card got a lot of hype. I was very hyped about it. To a degree, I'm still interested in it. It does a lot of things. It's very high tempo. You can, there's some pretty stupid things you can do because it fabricates and makes a token. You can technically go turn 1, Swamp Dark Ritual, play Marionette Apprentice, sacrifice the servo to Culling the Weak, and cast a turn 1 initiative with Vicious Battle Rager or a turn 1 Monarch, which is Christmas Land. You have to have Swamp Dark Ritual, Culling the Weak, and then some payoff for it. But more importantly, this is just Agent of the Iron Throne on 2 bodies. That's all it is. And I think that that's just good enough. You know, that's just good enough. The way to read this is that every creature that you have in black that drains 2 when it ETBs or LTBs, dies or enters, is 3 damage to the table with Marionette Apprentice, which is really, really good because that means that we can start to do Philosophy of Fire burn math, and we can say, how many cards do I need that do that to kill my opponent? And the cool thing is it's whenever an artifact or a creature, so a Nimblewright Schematic translates to 3 damage. Nimblewright Schematic in this deck, Prize Statue in this deck, they're literally just like, they represent, each one of them does other things, but it's 10% of our opponent's life total. It also punishes sweepers really hard. If somebody sweeps the board, everybody's going to take a fucking ton of damage, which is great. He's wondering if we can turn it into a lightning bolt. No, enters the battlefield, search your library for a card with mana value 3 or less, equal to your devotion, reveal it and put it in your hand. It says you lose 3 life. Yeah. No, yeah, we can't do that. Yeah, like Redburn with the Black Feel. Exactly, yeah. Runs sick with tokens and edicts, yeah. And I have a list written up for this. It looks great. I kind of prefer Sivrus Iron Throne to this. Mirkwood Bats actually doesn't go in this one because there's just better things to be doing. Mirkwood Bats does not drain when it enters. I would rather play a creature that I don't care about, that I don't have to protect, that immediately does the draining, than play the Mirkwood Bats. Yeah, but Sivrus is some real shit. I've never been a Sivrus enjoyer until like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Mirkwood Bats is a good card. Mirkwood Bats scares people disproportionate to what it does. There are decks that make Mirkwood Bats look exceptionally fucked up, like Abdel. And so then people get it in their brain that it's like a very, very, busted card. Yeah, I mean, it's a 4-mana 2/2 flyer that doesn't do anything when it lands. And then you have to do things to make it work. If you pay it off, good for you. But yeah, I think Mirkwood Bats is a card that I was involved in overhyping, heavily overhyping. Same thing with Nadir's Nightblade. There are good decks for it. Dalek Squadron makes Mirkwood Bats and Nadir's Nightblade look exceptionally good. Very, very, very good. You spelled why I hate Ancient Copper Dragon. I don't understand the card's price on price 1 bit. Ancient Copper Dragon. I'll have to look that one up. But yeah, Marionette Apprentice is sweet. You can play Edicts really early and profit off of them because you've got your servo. So like turn 1, some random artifact. Turn 2, Marionette Apprentice. Turn 3, Fleshbag Marauder is like online right away. So is Innocent Blood. Demon's Disciple, all that stuff. I mean, this is a really cool commander. It's very high tempo. The strange thing is that I found myself when I'm playing it running out of gas, which I don't tend to do in black decks. I don't tend to run out of gas in black decks. But this one I've had trouble with. And I'm not able to square why this feels so much worse than Sivrus. Because Sivrus is twice the mana. And Sivrus you have to get the commander and the background. But I don't know. Yeah, Sivrus Agent of the Iron Throne just has felt better when I playtest it. And I've put this and Sivrus through probably combined like over 100 rounds of playtesting. So yeah, not cPDH for Ancient Copper Dragon, correct. Okay, here is the last uncommon, and sorry it took longer for us to get there, but we're enjoying each other's company. Yeah, Birdbath says, because drawing is so good. Yeah, it just turns out that when you can like draw 3 cards a turn, it's very good. The funny thing is that the only difference between the two decks is that Sivrus has all the card draw in the command zone, so you don't need to run card draw in the deck. Theoretically, it does leave you open to Sivrus getting killed and then never drawing any cards, but like Sivrus isn't really the problem for a while. Like turns 6, 7, and 8, I think, are probably the turns where we can anticipate people would intentionally kill a Sivrus. But the earlier turns, like there's Malcolm, there's Abdel, there's Gretchen, and we're killing those players. We're doing damage to them. So like, are they really going to kill our Sivrus? Is that really what they want to do? So we're going to get a lot of card advantage right off the bat. The difference with Marionette is that we have to play card advantage spells in the deck. The benefit is that we get out on the board right away. We get to play all, Dark Ritual, Springleaf Drum, Marionette Master, or Marionette Apprentice, tap it, cast a, Persistent Specimen, right? So it's kind of interesting. Marionette, I thought Marionette Apprentice was going to be definitely the best one, but this is the last card I want to point out here in our presentation for, just for this whole set review, and that is Furnace Hellkite. And when I first saw this, I was like, okay, that seems fine. It looks like Oxida Finisher, right? Which is the Unga Bunga Monkas, very based, mono red Voltron. The difference between these two is simply that the Oxida Finisher needs to play equipment. The Oxida Finisher is bigger. The Furnace Hellkite can play other artifacts, which is really good, and it has flying. Sometimes you're going to wish you had Oxida Finisher, and sometimes you're going to be glad that you had Furnace Hellkite. I think that they're pretty equivalent. The Furnace Hellkite is nice because you get to run the value mana rocks like Bonder's Ornament and Network Terminal and Seer's Lantern, because each mana rock represents um, like 1 mana for when you tap it, but also 1 mana off of affinity. So you can play Furnace Hellkite on like turn 4 or 5 and start immediately killing people with double strike, pump. There's no way to protect it though. So like if this gets killed twice, I don't know what our recourse is for actually ending the game, because because we haven't done any damage. Like if you run this thing out there, you give it haste and you immediately like TBR it or assault strobe it and try to kill somebody and they kill it, then you're losing like turns of combat, right? So I like Furnace Hellkite though. I think it's sweet. Furnace Hellkite looks fun, sweet art too, definitely. Yeah, it looks like a Shivan dragon that got Phyrexianized. I must admit, it looks like it's been Phyrexianized, but it's not a Phyrexian creature type. I'm kind of confused. I think this might have been a spew on their art direction team. The chest, the face, the wings that don't have any like skin in them. It all looks very Phyrexian to me, but it doesn't have Phyrexian creature type. It's just artifact creature. It doesn't look like an artifact creature at all to me. So I don't really know. It looks Phyrexian to me. So, but it's not. Hellkite has the rock that gives the dragon's haste. Yeah, so it has the Orb of Dragonkind, which is the best mana rock in the deck other than Arcane Signet, because it gives it haste. Yeah, which is very, very good. Hellkite Igniter at Home. Carnelian Orb of Dragonkind. That's the one. Yep. And there's really no other dragon payoffs. So I know you guys are looking because we all want to have that sick dragon deck. Dragons at common are really tough. Dragons at common be Dragon D's nuts. They're really not a common rarity thing. So we get them in the command zone, but that means that if we're trying to look for synergies in the 99, the only thing is the Carnelian Orb, and there's one other, which is Dragon's Breath. Because why would you ever play Dragon Servant, the one that reduces the cost of dragons, when you can literally just play Arcane Signet? Arcane Signet's just better, like by a lot. There's no other dragon synergies, unfortunately. And really the only good dragons in the 99 that we can play, the two best in the whole format, are good not because they're dragons. They're good because they give you the initiative. Avenging Hunter and Stirring Bard are both dragons, and they're the only really, really good dragons in the 99. So yeah, these are pretty equivalent. Yeah, Breath Weapon. But like in this deck, do we really care? Breath Weapon, like if Breath Weapon hit, like we would play Breath Weapon and Fiery Cannonade in Furnace Hellkite because it doesn't kill our commander and it kills everything else, which is a bigger deal in Oxida Finisher because you want to clear blockers out of the way. Whereas Furnace Hellkite, those things are going to serve to clear any flying blockers out of the way, right? So yeah, looks cool. Looks very Chad. Looks very mouth breathing, like Big D energy, like Timmy Smash, Smooth Brain, Unga Bunga Monkos, Unga Bunga Dragon. This is like Trogdor. That's what I would call it. I'm gonna call that right now. When we make this deck, we're gonna call it Trogdor the Burninator, because Homestar Runner, man. Fucking Newegg and Underground from the weird old days of the internet. Smoldering Spires. Let's see. Let me look that up here. By the way, I'm having a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for joining me today. I'm off of my game with the streaming, and it's nice to have everybody in here participating. Yeah, Smoldering Spires would be great. We'd probably play that in this deck. Although the only thing is that tap lands are potentially problematic. We really, really want to be able to run out mana rocks and cheap artifacts that give us something on ETB in rapid succession, and we really don't want to get that interrupted by a tap land. Also, we're going to have kind of a low land count because we're going to want the deck to mostly be artifacts. Yeah. So, Birdbat says first you start with an S, Then you draw a bigger S. That's right. Good times. Homestar Runner. Homestar Runner. Before YouTube, man. Yeah, before YouTube, we had E-Bombs World and Underground, which had a very, we could use the word eclectic mix of content. Anything from not kid friendly to like tower defense and like awesome RPG games, but then like lots of illicit stuff as well. I like Smoldering Spires as a finisher because it's not a spell to counter as you go for the big hit. Yeah, totally. I would probably play Smoldering Spires. Yeah, I would probably play it. Just get like that one flying blocker out of the way. It's basically just a spell. Just treat it as an MDFC. Properly lubricated. Yeah, I mean, Furnace Hellkite's going to go hard as hell with Brass Knuckles. Brass Knuckles is 5 mana, which is the same as pumping Furnace Hellkite to 10. So technically it's the same. 4 to play, 1 to equip. Except that if you pump the Furnace Hellkite, then he gets 2 power each time. So it's worth. Elvin, it's been real, bruh. Thanks for the stream. Cheers and happy building. Elvin, you're a Chad. You're a champion. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the future streams and hopefully in the Discord server. Of course, if you haven't done so already, if you're not part of the Discord server, make sure to join. It's a really big community. It's the largest cPDH community in the world. We have 750 people. I like choked on something. 750 people. So the link is in the description below. You can join the Discord there, and I'll give you a little wave when you come on in. But yeah, thanks, Elvin. Good to see you. So yeah, Furnace Hellkite looks good. That's the last of it. So let's answer the question. It's time to wrap up here. Will cPDH ever be the same again? Is the format fundamentally changed? I'm gonna say yes and no. I think that the clear-headed answer is that we got a lot of really like generically good cards that go in the 99 that bolster existing strategies. Especially where they were needed, but in some places where they weren't. Like Black was easily the biggest beneficiary of this set, which is not the first time. Black is just like unrepentant, man. It's just like reigns supreme. It's just that powerful black magic, it's that Emperor Palpatine energy, that Baron Harkonnen, Chungus scheming, big card advantage, good kill spells, lots of suffering. Yeah, for 60 card popper, don't even get me started on that. This set is gonna fuck 60 card popper up real bad, like in a lot of ways. 60 card popper will never be the same after this set. We actually didn't cover some of the cards too. Shit. Yeah, we do need to cover these, don't we? Because there's some multicolored cards I forgot about. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's just cover these last ones here real quick. But the point being, there's a lot of cards that bolstered existing stuff. When we're talking about the 99, bolstered existing stuff, especially where it was needed. Thraben Charm being a great example. Another bite spell that's very cheap. More card advantage in green. White got some more like cheap evasive creatures. More protection, more dynamic removal. That's all good. The thing that I think really hits the hardest is that green and black, the green and black shit together and alone is very, very good. Okay. Yeah. The green and black shit is just very, very good. And they work together really, really well. And that's what's new. Decks like Honest Rutstein are going to have access to combos that are also just attached to good creatures. So, that's pretty sweet. We also got cards in the command zone, like these colorless commanders, Breaker of Creation and Glaring Fleshraker, are no joke. These are real cPDH decks, and they're colorless, and it's hilarious. So, you know, it is what it is. Rarity common, and then how do we say like color is multicolored? Color equals multi, maybe? Yeah, okay, sweet. Update Slimefoot sometime. Yeah, Slimefoot, that is absolutely a place we would play those combo cards, I think. Because all those cards that we enable in that deck are already there. I really like Slimefoot, and I've maintained contact with a number of people in the server who are Slimefoot enjoyers, and Slimefoot has only gotten better, right? The Plunder is very synergistic with what it does. It's kind of, just another great black pinger deck. And then Golgari, which is like the grindiest colors. Golgari and Orzhov and Rakdos, they all just grind so freaking hard. Even Golgari and Orzhov in particular grind even harder than Rakdos and Dimir do. So, okay, so the card that got me thinking about all this was Cranial Ram, and we got to talk about this card. Yeah, 60 card, this will get banned because it's cranial plating, but it's better. And in cPDH, I don't know if this actually plays. I don't know. This is kind of a controversial take, I bet. But like Cranial Ram, I used to be a huge proponent of cranial plating. Cranial plating was really, really good in the format when there weren't a lot of creatures because there was a really good chance you could like edict the board once, clear all the combo creatures out of the way, and then just punch somebody for like 7, 10, lots of damage. Nowadays, the boards are very thick with creatures. There's a lot of blockers. There's a lot of removal. There's a lot of edicts. And just making a creature huge and not having evasion is not really good enough. These cards are best when you have like Changeling Outcast and Tormented Soul and Dothy Slayer, Dothy Horror, Soul Devi, Foot Soldier, that kind of stuff. But the problem is that those decks that play those creatures also don't want to play mana rocks. So the weird thing is you have these like fairly creature light decks that have access to Cranial Ram and Cranial Plating and don't end up playing them. Like the deck that you would say, oh, obviously this goes in here is Legate Lanius. But like this deck has the problem of not having evasion. Yeah, you can make Legate into, an 11/11 on turn 4 if there's enough creatures in play. But like you got to be able to hit somebody with it, and if it doesn't have evasion, right? And that's not a criticism of the commander. This commander is very, very good. It's in fact one of my favorite commanders right now. But what does this solve that Rakdos has a problem with? Like this doesn't solve any of Legate Lanius's problems. Legate Lanius has so many creatures that get big. White of Precinct 6, Mortician Beetle, that creature. There's a whole bunch of other ones. So like what does this do? It makes like a Mortician Beetle from a 7/7 into a 12/8. It's like it still doesn't have flying. It still doesn't have trample. It still doesn't have menace, right? So the only redeeming quality for Cranial Ram is that we can attach it to these creatures, that recursive creatures that come back over and over again. So Persistent Specimen, Clay Revenant, Haunt of the Dead Marshes, Retrofitted Transmogrant, and Sanitarium Skeleton, right? And then you can take a really small creature and make it really big, which is great because when your opponents block it, you feel like you're trading up, which is great. But the big thing that saves it is that it has a germ token. So this is 2 permanents on 1 card, and that's something we look for in black decks because that means that it mitigates our plunder cost, right? If we have good cards, generically good cards that give us more than 1 game piece, then our plunder is always online. So Cranial Ram, I don't know. Maybe it's looking for the right deck, but every deck that I look at that's like Rakdos that can play this, it's not good there. The deck that's good, where it's good, would be something where there's flying in the command zone, and you have Rakdos in your colors, which is really Sidrax's Spectre. That's like the place where you want cranial plating and cranial ram, because then you attach it to your commander, you try to hit them. If they kill it, you're like, I don't give a fuck. I've got haste and unearth, and I've got unearth in the graveyard, so I just unearth it, give it haste, attach, kill people. Yeah, Rogue Rack, I guess, would be a doubt. That's not nothing. Yeah, Birdbath, that's a really good point, actually. And the deck I would do would be Rogue Rack Tormod. Rogue Rack Tormod. That's already a deck. They call it Rogmod. That's a Nate Diggity special right there. He's also one of the common connoisseurs. Secret. Birdbath, are you Nate Diggity secretly? No. Nate's not that talkative. It's in the Discord. Okay. Yeah, but that seems amazing. He got to your tech first. Yeah, he did so a long time ago too. Not to minimize what you've made, because maybe yours is more up to date. But he was onto that shit early. Basically like trying to maximize plunder, go super turbo, make tons of mana in red and black, and play big value pieces early. And that deck has only gotten better as plunder has gotten better, and it's only gotten better as the fodder has gotten better too. Oh, you made this week. He made that deck like a year and a half or 2 years ago. What's up, Breaking Bob? Still live. Yeah, baby. Yeah, we're still living. Still in the land of the living. But yeah, Rogue Rack seems like a great place for cranial plating and cranial ram. Because what are keywords on Rogue Rack? I know other people probably know this better than I do, but... First Strike, Menace, Trample. Jesus Christ. His name is Nate Diggity. You should be able to find... He posted his deck list. If you look up Rogmod, or no, it'll be under Rogue Rack. I changed it to Rogue Rack and Tormod or something like that, but you'll be able to find it. Yeah, Rogue Rack. First Strike, Menace, Trample with the cranial ram. That's really, really funny, with cranial plating as well. I don't think of that deck as being explicitly an artifact deck, but I would probably bend it to make it work a little bit. You don't have to bend it that hard, though. You just play all the good black artifact draw stuff and the plunder and, all that. So cranial ram. Okay, other ones, Expanding Ooze. We talked about this briefly. It's not like crazy, but it's like a good Golgari beater. It just doesn't have any evasion or anything, no trample. Faithful Watchdog is very good. 2 mana for a 3/3 vigilance is like pretty pushed. I would say this is probably the best doggo that we've ever gotten. 2 mana 3/3 vigilance. This is pretty cool in Conclave Mentor. Conclave Mentor, it basically whenever one or more +1/+1 counters put down, you put one more instead. So you play Conclave Mentor, you play the Doggo. Doggo's now a 4/4 vigilance for 2. And then, yeah, and this is a pretty cool deck. It's benefited. This deck has gotten a lot of good stuff lately. It's not my kind of deck, but I did build it with Derek. We do need to mention Obstinate Gargoyle, maybe more for 60 card. It's a 3/3. If it's modified, it has flying. I feel like this card is very underwhelming. If it's modified, it has flying, and then it has persist. But the problem is that this is not in persist combo colors, so getting another persist creature doesn't really matter. Like unless you were like Mardu, Rough Rider, persist combo, or like 5-color. Yeah, maybe 5-color you would play it just to have all the persist creatures. Breaking Bob says the cranial ram. Is Wizards kidding? Was this designed for Devil? I don't think it could be. It depends on the Mayhem Devil deck you're playing. If you're playing cranial ram, you need to have good evasive creatures to put it on. So I'm talking about, your Changeling Outcast, Tormented Soul, Dothy Horror, Dothy Slayer, that kind of stuff. You need unblockable shadow creatures to really make cranial plating and cranial ram good. Yeah, it could be good for Mayhem Devil. I'm largely off Mayhem Devil though. I'm not gonna lie, guys. That was kind of like one of my signature signpost decks. I'm very bullish on it for a very long time, and I think it's still very good. In fact, it's very good right now with Malcolm being a very 40% win rate deck. because if you can get the Mayhem Devil out, it's like very hard for them to combo. But Legate Lanius just has my heart in its firm, manly grip. Yeah, all this energy stuff sucks for the most part. Sneaky Snacker is really interesting for Dimir plunder decks. This is really good in a Dimir plunder deck. So here's the commander that I would play this in. Is in Contraband Kingpin. Contraband Kingpin is just like a grindy Dimir control deck that rewards you for plundering and playing artifacts. And so when you're drawing 3 cards in a turn, this card comes back to the battlefield, then you can plunder it. And if you plunder it and you drew a card at the beginning of your turn and then you draw 3 more, then it comes back right away. Right? So it's an infinite loop for plunder. It's infinite fodder for a Dimir plunder deck. And Dimir plunder has a lot of options. There's also like Deadeye plunderers, which is funny that it has the term plunderers in there. It makes complete sense. Which is just cranial plating on a body. It's +1/+1 for each artifact you control, and then you can make treasure tokens with your excess mana. So that's another good one for that. Sneaky Snacker would be interesting in a build of Rilsa that was plunder focused if you were playing Rilsa Rail, because it's a cheap evasive flyer that's a rogue and a fairy, which are relevant creature types. And that's it, folks. That's all of the commanders. There's no what about uncommon? Did I miss anything here? Oh, why have I not seen some of these? What's this? Oh no, we're looking for type creature. Okay. Horrid Shadow Spinner. Yeah, we do need to point this one out. Horrid Shadow Spinner is a very cool card. 3 mana in Dimir, 3 toughness, has lifelink. I love that. When you have a black creature that gains life in the command zone that has 3 toughness and it's fairly cheap, you gotta love it. When it attacks, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard that many cards. This commander can be built in a lot of different ways. You can build this as a mid-range deck. You can build it as a combo deck. You can build it as a mid-range deck with a combo finish potentially. I like the idea of building this as a Voltron combo, which is weird. That's very atypical. But Voltron like combo decks aren't looking for lots of cards. They want specific cards. So looting, or actually this is better than, yeah, well, this is looting, yeah. Looting like this is fabulous, right? If you pump this up and you hit for 5, you just have to attack. You just have to attack. It's gaining you life, right? And it's digging you for your combo. Dimir is also the best color pair for Ghostly Flicker combo. Outside of, like if Ghostly Flicker combo is the very best it can possibly be in Abdel. But in Dimir, you get a lot of really good Ghostly Flicker stuff too. You get a way to tutor for Peregrine Drake with Brain Spoil, and you get more tutors in general for your combo pieces. You get defensive tools to actually kill things and protect yourself with counter spells. You get life gain in black. You get sweepers to clean up aggressive boards. You get edicts to solve problems if you want to go down that route. And you get life gain. So I think Horrid Shadow Spinner is very interesting. I would probably build this as a Voltron combo. What combos to finish a mid-range? Yeah, so I recommend avoiding doing what I'm going to talk about, like the plague. Don't just put combos in your deck to help finish the game, because the problem is that they artificially increase your aggro in a way that doesn't lead you to winning more. And you're diluting your mid-range plan, strongly diluting your mid-range plan most of the time to include a combo. So the combo is worse because you're not dedicated combo, and the mid-range is worse because you're not dedicated mid-range. So you're like kind of the worst of both. But the difference here is that this deck gains life and potentially draws a shitload of cards, So it seems pretty resilient. I like it. The ways that we pump this up are going to be like the way that we pump this up will be dissynergistic with our combo for sure. But it draws a lot of cards. Draws a lot of cards. If this swings for 5, that's draw 5, discard 5. It's very, very strong. I don't know how it measures up against like Baleful Strix or Possessed Scab, which are both like very good Dimir combo flicker decks, but this has lifelink, so there's that. Golden Tail Trainer, there's some people pretty excited about this. This discounts the cost of aura and equipment spells. White-green is great for aura and enchantment type stuff. If you want to get card advantage in your deck and you don't have it in the command zone, and you're in these colors, then you do want to be leaning into enchantments and auras, because that's where you're going to get your card advantage. So it's doable. Reduces their cost by X, where X is its power. So you could pretty easily see this getting up to like 3 power, and then most of your auras are just going to cost 1. Whenever it attacks, another modified creature gets +X, where X is the trainer's power. So I like it. Yeah, seems good. Not bad. I'm asking to build it for cPDC, so you always have 100% aggro. Got it. So for cPDC, man, I don't know. I think I just play Baleful Strix. But for the combo, I would play Peregrine Drake. Yeah, Drake Ghostly Flicker. I don't know how much time you have to combo though in that format. And also, if your deck is really built around your commander and it just gets killed, that feels pretty bad. So there's a part of me that looks at that commander and says, nah, I'd just rather run Baleful Strix. Because Baleful Strix doesn't care if it dies. It's going to eat a creature. It's drawing you a card. It's an infinite mana outlet. Infinite flicker outlet. So you draw your deck when you go infinite. So if you achieve your combo, you are going to draw your deck, which is great. You don't have to have anything else in play. So I would just say play Baleful Strix. Baleful Strix is also a mana cheaper. Doesn't matter if it dies. If they kill it, then you're going to draw more cards later on. So I like that. I like when people are forced to kill your commander. When you're playing something where they're forced to kill your commander, it's really great that the commander give you something in return for your efforts, so that you're not just left high and dry. By the way, I need to do this. I need to do this first, so that nobody else takes it. Furnace, Hellkite. And it's going to be Trogdor the Burninator. Trogdor! Trogdor the Burninator, burning all the countryside, burning up all the people. Trogdor! So Voltron, Voltron, yeah. I pride myself in good deck names. This one's no different. In progress, unlisted. There we go. There we go. Got it. Yeah, Strix feels good. Satyr Enchanter or Golden Tail Trainer. Satyr Enchanter. Yeah, I don't know. I think you'd be huffing some strong copium to try and justify playing this over Satyr Enchanter. Satyr Enchanter is just very, very fucking good. Like, Satyr Enchanter, it's just, every time I play against that deck, I win or lose with like 6 to 12 cards in hand, and that feels insane. Draws more cards than Tatiova ever did. A DBZ Dragon, I like how much that ages you. Totally. Yeah, actually, when did Homestar Runner come out? Let's see. Homestar won a year. No, we need to go to Wikipedia here. Dude, look at this. It does. It's dating me so hard. Look at this. 1996. Ask a ninja. Yeah, Birdbath, drawing cards is the best thing to do. It is the objectively correct thing to do. And I think I would be more interested in this if Selesnya didn't have such a hard problem drawing cards already, right? That's the problem. The colors have a problem, and if you can solve for it, it's very good. So the other question is, would you play this over Kutzil? For me, fuck no, dude. Kutzil, I want to draw 3 cards every turn. I want my Ancestral Recall every single turn. Give me those cards. That's all there is to it. It's very simple. Just draw lots of cards and beat people up. Get the beat down going. Okay, well, I think that is all there is to it for now. The answer to the question, is cPDH changed forever? I think no, in the sense that these are just good cards that add more depth to the format, that give us more of the stuff we already liked, that fixed up and shored up some problems here and there, gave us some powerful spells. Yes, in that it gave us some very novel and powerful, recursive, repeatable value engines, as well as some very novel and tidy combos. The Basking Root, or the new Rootwalla with Sadistically, is a 2-card combo. Those are very uncommon in the format, and they're both tutorable. One is tutorable with Shrinekeeper, the other one is tutorable with Shred Memory. So that's novel and new. So it is different for that, different forever. I think the reason that the format is different forever has less to do with the set and more to do with what the set tells us about how WotC views commons. And I think that the commons are getting stronger and stronger, and I really like that. I like the design space they're experimenting with. I really like these cards that play well early and play well late. I think those are really, really good contributions to the format. The cycling cards that all, go into the graveyard, make an Eldrazi spawn token, draw a card, all at instant speed for 3 mana, while also getting all those same benefits when you cast it, is phenomenal. I think that this is the exact level of pushed I want. And I don't even think that if they went a little further that it's even a problem for cPDH, right? It's just going to be 1 card, right? Like, the worst thing that they could do would continue to be printing like tons of 1 mana flickers. If they continue to print 1 mana flickers, we're going to have an Abdel problem on our hand that is more problematic than it already is. And that would probably be a bad thing. More ghostly flickers, please don't do that, WotC. Don't do that. But like the rest of it, sure, why not? Like, what's the worst that they could print in common? They can't print Wrath of God. They can't print like super busted tutors. Yeah. So I think that the format is different and it's not different, which is cool. So we get ourselves a really powerful new set that introduces a bunch of new cool stuff. Nothing seems to be terribly broken, but it's all very cool and very interesting. And across the board, the power level is really good. So I definitely like that. And here, here's some really good examples of what that looks like. Like, basically the best white removal spell ever printed. Another good, well, actually, I would replace this with the, at common, I mean, for Threadband Charm. Serum Visionary, I would replace that with the new Aura. That's the best blue Aura removal spell we've ever gotten. We got the best black Mass Edict creature we've ever gotten. We got arguably one of the best pingers in the entire format. And we got, Eternal Witness, basically. So, I mean, like, this is a really good kind of, compilation of powerful spells. So with that, folks, let's wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really, joining me today. It was really great hanging out with you all. That's kind of why I stayed on longer. I'd kind of planned for like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to cover the whole of the set, but I really enjoyed the back and forth banter, all the ideas, all the good questions, the participation, all the love. If you did, of course, enjoy the video and you want to throw me something a little in return, just make sure to hit the like button on your way out. If you do want to stay after the video is over and leave a little comment for the algorithm, that always helps a lot. I don't pay any money into the YouTube algorithm, not currently, although with the new job that I've got, I will be able to do that. to boost these out to more people. Because all of my stuff is done by organic stuff. So share it with a friend if you think it's something that they'd enjoy. Leave a like and a comment if you want to support the work. And of course, if you want to take your support to the next level, the best way you can do that is patreon.com/common connoisseurs, where you can start contributing to my project and to this community and to this server at as little as $2 a month, which is about half the cost of a cup of coffee. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions about that. Just so you know, the access to the Patreon does get you access to the exclusive supporters only section of the Discord, which is the only place where you can get a real-time live update on all the decks we build together through our Let's Build and through all the tournament gameplay that I'm doing. So I'll tell you exactly what I'm putting in the deck, what I'm not putting in the deck, with guides on those things, rationale for what's happening, and I'll tell you about the cuts. So when we're cutting cards and adding cards, I'll tell you exactly what I'm putting in and why. And it's the only place currently where I can actually share that kind of stuff with you all. So if you're interested in following, if there's certain decks that I work on that you really like, that you want the inside scoop on, that's a great place to do it. Also, in the future and currently, I had to take a little pause on it. I will be doing coaching services. And these coaching services are one-on-one. They can be in all sorts of different forms, whether it's wanting to tune a deck, learn how to build a deck, take a deck that you've got and build it better, things of that nature. I am doing one-on-one coaching. I've got 2 coaching clients currently who I've worked with, and it's been a lot of fun. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely reach out to me and let me know, and we'll get you on the calendar. But with that, enough of that stuff. Thank you all so much for being here. Connoisseurs of Fine Common Cardboard, I hope you had a really great time today. It was a pleasure having you here. And wherever you are in the multiverse, we'll catch you on the battlefield. Peace out, friends. See ya.